And you tell me that you need me. You tell
Transcend realities. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun hits the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live in dark places. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun hits the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. My mind going to dark places.
when we were 15. I remember the car rides, small fights, conversations all night. I never saw you as anything more than friend, but now I see you in a new light. We're getting older, there's a sparkle in your eyes that wasn't there before. You give me butterflies, it makes me wonder if there could be something more. We were only kids when we first met. Now let's discover what we have been, yeah. I don't wanna wonder what could have been. So baby, take my hand and let my love in. were 15. I remember the car rides, small fights, conversations all night. I never saw you as anything more than friend, but now I see you with a new light. We're getting older, there's a sparkle in your eyes that wasn't there before. You give me butterflies, it makes me wonder if there could be something more. We were only kids when we first met. Now let's discover what we have been, yeah. I don't wanna wonder what could have been. So baby, take my hand and let my love in. We were only kids when we first met. Now let's discover what we have been, yeah. I don't wanna wonder what could have been. So baby, take my hand and let my love in. We were only kids when we first met. Now let's discover what we have been, yeah. I don't wanna wonder what could have been. So baby, take my hand and let my love in.
Here we go. Do it. Put the heel on the record. Put the heel on the record.
Oh, here we go. It is time for another night of Dut. How is everybody doing tonight? Space Cat, thank you for the bits. Ancient Decay, thank you for the bits. And Ancient, thank you for the gifted sub, brother. How are y'all doing tonight? I hope everybody's having a great evening. I just finished 4 shots of espresso in a frozen coffee, so I'm doing fucking fantastic. Good God, we're already almost at a hype train. You guys are flipping awesome. How are you doing tonight? Okay, so let's break down the rules for a Dut like we always do. Here is the thing, everybody. The rules for a Dut night are simple. There is no NQ bashing. You will respect everybody's opinion, whether you agree with it or not. And always be civil. If you can't be civil and you can't respect other people's opinions and their thoughts, then guess what? I will bounce your ass straight up at the channel, because we are here to be productive, we are here to support the community, and we are here to support this game. So, let's get to it. It's time to start the discussion. It is time for another fun night. Woohoo! Drax, check your DM, brother. Time to start bringing people down.
or mid-speak. I apologize, but I was moving everyone in.
No problem, brother. Oh, I can hear you over somebody's mic.
I'm offended. How dare you?
Hey, it could be worse. You could have done what I did to Raven and call you a fart knocker.
Oh, geez, you did that? No wonder he's not hanging out here anymore.
No, that was tonight. Someone else has to send cheers to start it. Whoa, Space Cat! Thank you for the gifted subs, brother. You are awesome. So,
I had the stream going.
it is. We got a lot to discuss. So the other night we went through a lot of things in regards to the potentiality of WIPE
Cool whip.
and cool whip. Yeah, I can't even say that, man. I just can't
Cool
say
whip.
it. Cool
The
whip.
white
Cool whip. It's a cool whip.
Whip.
Cool whip.
Hey, cool. Not
Cool
say
whip.
Whip. Not say cool whip.
Cool whip. Cool whip. But yep. We got a lot to talk about tonight. So we discussed a lot of stuff the other night, people. It was kind of crazy. It was kind of insane. We had a lot of people in chat. We got a lot of people in chat tonight, including some different faces. So all the time the faces are different. Let me get up the cams so we can show off who's in chat with us. Pop that out.
Oh, we get to do camps again?
Yes, we do.
Hey. You only got me for about 45 minutes, so...
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Ah!
I figure we're already at a level 5 hype train, dude.
What? Dang! You guys are awesome! Okay, so let's do this. Done. Let me reshape this on my end a little bit so we can make this fit. There we go.
Yo, this one's for Myth. It's not a hype train, it's a wipe train, baby!
I couldn't let Space Cat be the only one that gives some subs, so I figured I'd help out.
You guys are amazing. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. But we are up to 37 people already in the stream. You guys know the rules for the night. Everybody in chat, you guys acknowledge the rules for the night. Keep it clean, keep it cool, and no NQ bashing, and always be respectful of everybody else's opinions, right?
Will do. Also, if you want people to share their camera, we're gonna need perms for that.
I thought I gave... Oh, that was in the other channel. Hold on. We were in the wrong channel last time.
No, we're always in the correct channel. Okay.
Whatever channel you put us in, that's the channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go there
Dad.
first. We pull into where you are.
Yeah, no, I was in the wrong channel last time. There we go. Okay, you can now turn your cams on, guys.
He did this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Want to see my ugly ass face?
That's a terrifying thing.
I always respect the opinions of others. no
I
matter
am
how wrong they are.
in the Dut Discord. Could I get one of my mods to post an invite to the Dut Discord and channel, please?
I put a picture up so I don't have to shave.
What's up, S'mores? Okay, that link that Drax just posted, that is for the Dut Discord. When we do Dut, we do it on that Discord, not the standard one. If you notice for the night, you also not see any of my typical bots or anything. Nothing for the down payment for the house, nothing for the lottery, none of that stuff like that. We keep this clean on Dut nights. No advertisements, no nothing, okay?
Those are thinking, well, he had that last stream. Well, that's because that was not an official Dut night. That was during the week stream that.
Yeah, that was just
needed
an
to be
ad hoc night.
addressed.
What are you talking about? I didn't have it
needed
on
to be
last time.
addressed right then and there. It was.
It was? Oh, at first.
Yeah,
I turned it off, though.
Yeah, but it wasn't an official Dut night, to be fair.
And how dare you? I just got a call from the FEC and the SEC and the Novian Trade Board.
God.
You're out, dude. You're out.
I just realized something. When I look over at my screen where where the Twitch is and stuff like that, I'm looking up at you guys like, hi!
Yeah, he is. He's like looking at.
Yeah, somebody's looked at me and waved. Like,
You're getting a real, what's it called?
This is like
Brady
some
Bunch
straight up
feeling.
Brady Bunch shit, yeah. Either that or Hollywood Squares.
Hey, can you put the names under people's pictures?
I cannot make it permanent, but when I move my mouse over it, pops up.
Okay.
I wish I could make it permanent, but no permanents. I just occasionally move my mouse over to say hi.
Well, this is kind of just chat, so you actually don't need to actually move your mouse.
Yeah.
Wipe
Helmet.
or not?
100%
We
hype
have a
train.
wipe or not?
To wipe or not to wipe? That is the question.
Hype wipe.
We're at a full hype train.
I wipe
Yeah, no
every
shit.
time.
Level 5 complete. You guys are awesome. Thank you. I have just finished 4 shots of espresso and a CC Turtle Mocha Sippy. For those of you who do not know what that is,
You
it's
are
a
loaded.
whole lot of go. Wah.
I'm on my 8th energy drink for the day.
Ah.
How many of those can you have before they're fatal?
I don't know. We're gonna find out.
Oh, let's not.
What hospital do I need to send those flowers to there? Surface.
Who, for me or him?
Yeah, you're drinking all that stuff. You're going to be
Hey.
right back in the hospital, man.
In case you're wondering, if you click on that link, that is what I just had. Except for that is a grande they have pictured. I got a super grande. And unlike CC's, they know what the different sizes mean. There is a small, then there is a grande, which means large, and then there is a super
looks really
grande, which means super large.
Looks so good.
I always drove me nuts about CC. You go into CC, it's not like you got a tall, and then you got a, what was it, a grande, which is large, and then you got a venti, which is technically Italian for 20.
Yeah,
So
I'm
at the
gonna have,
moment, we
if I
have
wanted to
no
do
new
that.
information of what was, the original post and stuff. Has anybody changed? I know we've talked about it in the ground at the moment, but there's still, a lot of people in the game that have. I know there's some people in the chat right now that's working on a couple proposals and things
Yeah.
like that. Is that what we want to talk about tonight?
I'd recommend, first of all, if you are working on a proposal, you write it up as formally as possible. While player feedback on the proposal is positive, the main thing you need to work on is making sure that your proposal looks like a business proposal. And when you're
Keep it
proposing
positive.
yeah, keep it positive, keep it concise, keep it easy to understand, and keep it simple. The more you make them read and the more you make them have to research, the less likely they are to spend the time to do it. So keep that in mind. Keep it simple, stupid.
And
Follow
if
the
you can
KISS rule.
use current in-game mechanics and coding as well, that's always a benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of technical requirements that would benefit a wipe too. I mean, the game itself, as it's in its current state, is really kind of iffy because there's a lot of legacy stuff that's left over from old systems that don't exist.
Or even Alpha. There's a lot of shit left in this game from Alpha still.
I'm sorry, but when you say simple stupid, I look over and see someone drawing a freaking mask. I'm sorry.
At least they're not drawing dicks on the screen.
He's right. Wipe or not.
Oh, goodness.
Ancient Decay is asking where his BP is.
I don't know. Which BP are you talking about?
Yeah, which one?
You will have to DM me, Ancient, okay?
I'm officially not selling any more blueprints right now.
Oh, you spent 10k points. What is this?
Oh, he redeemed his points.
Ah.
What is
Well,
10k?
maybe we should start off with talking about, like,
His
why.
red BP.
What are the reasons why people think we should wipe?
Yeah, let's do
the
that.
more
Hold
one
on.
of the more technical reasons is because they want to replace the planets at some point.
Oh, no. Let's do this from player base. Let's take a step back. We've been so focused on NQ and why NQ should or should not wipe. But let's be direct about this. Let's start this off with a simple: why, from a player point of view, do you think we should wipe?
Well, I mean, like me personally, I think that a lot of the planets just all look the same, and there's not really any real difference. I mean, there is, but there's not. But You know, like it don't really matter what planet you're on. There's nothing to actually do on the planets.
I can appreciate
I
that
like
distinction.
Tiamat.
However, there's no reason that they can't compact everyone's stuff into a blueprint and allow them to move it back onto their tile after the train edits have been completed.
No, hold on.
Planets doesn't necessitate a wipe.
I hate to say this, but no, I want to know, even if you're not for a wipe, what would be a reason you would think a wipe would be good as a player? Like, put yourself in a third-person perspective or a different mindset. What would be a reason why you think a wipe would be good for the game?
I think that the most common reason, probably the one that people think of first, is the stuff that was tested or maybe was exploited or maybe was unbalanced that we've been rolling with this whole time. It's not the greatest for the stability of the game to keep those changes, but we are still in a testing environment. When the game does go live or shortly before the game does go live for its 1.0, it might be better for the stability and balance of the game overall to have that fresh start with all of this new knowledge and all of these new systems in place to prevent the majority of those exploits and unfair advantages or imbalances.
Okay. There's also a lot of structures that have stacked elements and things like that that are still functional, like the storage ones. I mean, yeah, they can fix it on the back end, but the structures still exist, and
that
they still have
actually been fixed.
Impact.
If you go to the PTS, where that has been implemented now, there are objects other than engines, for instance, territory scanners, can't interact with. Hover seat controllers can't interact with if it's stacked. It's fully disabled.
Yeah, but the items still have a performance impact on the game, too, when you approach the structure.
Also, they haven't fully fixed containers yet. A stack of containers that's hooked up to a hub, if the hub isn't overlapping with anything else, it still works fine.
Right, yeah, because the hub always, like right now, if you crash a ship, the containers can all be dead, but you can heal the hub.
Yeah, I tested. I have a stack ship that I built way back when that I test on the PTS every time it pops up, and it now no longer functions for everything except for the containers. The containers also work.
The last time Eve was wiped was when it went from beta to full release.
You mean alpha to beta? The last time I was wiped?
Well, it was... No, EVE Online
so
was when it was full release.
Question could be, if they do a wipe, will they give you your skill points? That's the real question.
Yeah, that is the real question.
And the other question is, the blueprints that you can port over, because you did a port over from alpha to beta of your blueprints. That was totally possible, and they did it. You could have, you had your blueprints from alpha that you can use in beta. So in release, would you be able? This is the real question now. Like, would you be able, if they wipe, to port your skills and your blueprints? If they do that, well, if they don't do that, that's like a totally disastrous glass floor wipe like that. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I really don't see any negatives to that. I mean, keeping your blueprints, that's intellectual property. Just like, like, for instance, like your Lewis script. I mean, there's no reason why, you would want to disable a lot of that stuff.
All the garbage out. That's why I say disable it. Don't bring them.
Well, blueprints, one problem I have with that is, like, I would hate to do my factory all over again.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to blueprint it, I wouldn't have a container big enough to hold everything to deploy it.
No, I'm talking about just like the raw blueprint, like not any of the items that are in the blueprint, but just the blueprint.
Oh, and then you wouldn't have to have a container. You could just place it wherever you want without a container.
No, with the introduction of optimized containers, you will be able to build a hub that can build anything that you could cram into a large core structure. You will be able to place it.
Yeah, but you won't be able to build that factory to build those containers because you need that container to drop your blueprint of your factory, but yet you can't build that container because you don't have a factory to build.
Plus, those containers take 70 plus days to make and plasma.
Yeah, and
you don't need the
plasma.
exotics. Advanced and rare will get you really far.
Yeah, like
So wouldn't a lot of this stuff disappeared if they just followed through with what they were planning earlier instead of protecting everybody?
Yeah, I was going to jump in here. Is that they were still planning on implementing the the core abandonment and disappearance after the abandonment. So the difference would be is that they would still have to kind of support the back-end server and data for those constructs for 3 months, 4 months, while that kicks in after a fresh, after launch if they didn't wipe. But if they wipe, that's just dealt with straight away. Everything's a clean slate, and they don't have those server and data costs to begin with.
And from my understanding, the stuff like on Sanctuary and the new starter planet, all that stuff stays even after you unsubscribe, don't it?
Well, now this is something that we were discussing slightly earlier in the evening, is that if they do a full wipe, does that include Sanctuary? Which means,
I think it would.
Yeah, which means nowhere is safe. Yeah.
Okay, guys, for Impact for tonight, I want to get some devs' attention. If you were in stream, I'm about to set up a round table of sorts in the castle at the city. Yes, we have a castle at the city. It's the original castle. So if you want to VR over here, VR to Ember City. Let's put as many bodies in one spot as we possibly can.
And if anybody from NQ is listening and want to come give their feedback, I mean, you're more than welcome.
Oh, I doubt they're going to.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a mocha?
Huh?
Everybody gets one of your mochas?
I wish.
Yeah, and NQ might not be watching right now, but
they
most
will
likely
watch tomorrow.
someone in NQ will be watching this tomorrow.
Oh, I know for sure they'll be watching tomorrow. I know several of them watched the last one, so.
Which is why every time Cerberus has these, we hold these, we try to keep it as formal and as correct as we possibly can without getting into noisiness and loudness and craziness, and trying to keep it in a formal manner. That way, when they watch it, it's not just a bunch of noise and background and overtalk, that it's actually, a proper
constructive
form. Exactly, constructive.
That actually might go a long way towards the community if they just actually came on one night and did even if it was just one or a couple people from the community, not even just people from the community, if they just came on and had a discussion like they used to, whenever during alpha and stuff, they had the little dev videos every so often. If they just went that direction and actually communicated with the player base, and instead of these formal dev blogs, if they just came online and discussed things with the community from time to time, that would go a long way towards satisfaction.
The problem is their lawyers are telling them no way whatsoever. Every question is probably vetted before he even enters those dev blog pre-recorded videos.
Yeah, I can imagine that they're very cautious about putting out any definitive information without it going through the kind of the higher structure.
I mean, even if they just had the pluses and minuses and just a discussion of why it would be necessity and what benefits it would have to the community, it would go a long ways.
Yeah, I mean, they did specifically post about why in the message, but I don't know. It didn't seem like great justification to me personally.
Oh, and they netted 19 plus pages on the forums of responses. So in the case of the cores, they just did it, and then we read, and then they kind of walked it back. Here they kind of put out the idea, they put it out on the table, and we read anyways. But
I've read a lot of that feedback through that thread, and a lot of it is basically people making their own suggestions for wipes rather than kind of constructed feedback on what was presented.
Yeah,
it's not what they're looking for.
That's
Sorry, can I say something?
With, DU though, they come to us with a specific question, and within 3 responses, we're talking about something completely different. It happens in every.
Okay, something real quick. Can you stack the tables one next to each other so you can make a square, and you can have a square table? Because it gives you a very visual of everybody on the table. If everybody looks like a round table would be amazing, but we don't have round tables.
Where are you at, Travis?
I'm in the castle at the city.
Yeah, because right now it looks like a big dinner table. And
what's the
Yeah, we
VR?
don't want to turn this
Amber
into the
City.
Last Supper.
I was thinking about
Yeah,
screenshot-wise, getting a screenshot of everybody here. But hold on.
Yeah,
Well, this might be
just
exactly
put, like
what this
two
is.
next to each other and try to make like a square of the tables. I don't know how many tables you have, but
77.
just make like a square, and that'll be great. Maybe
Okay,
with an empty spot.
Whoever's in the yellow, move.
Yeah.
Let's not make the conversation about the table.
Yeah.
We're building here.
Can I get one of the Legates and XPX to come over here and set some perms on some chairs, please?
As far as the discussion, I'd like to take a moment to address blueprints and talent points specifically in terms of wipe them or do not wipe them. And I think it is probably healthy for the game to maintain the blueprints, although some players have had one or two good points that they bring up. For starters, that blueprints would bring an unfair advantage to people after a wipe who have ship builds that people want. They would be able to make more money.
Well,
The first factor that I'd like to introduce with that is just the fact that blueprints are not constructs. Putting together tokens can take considerable time, effort, and coordination. And even if you have the blueprints available, representing the hard work that you put in over the course of the beta, you are still going to need to coordinate with other people, buy materials, or acquire them yourself somehow. So it's a lot more fair than just, sit there and gain money after the wipe.
I disagree though, because you can sell blueprints. People buy blueprints. straight
One
up.
added thing I would do that though, if they are going to keep the blueprints, I would actually have a timestamp on them, like so anything past this date wouldn't be allowed. So after, say, what was it, delimiter or something like that?
Yeah, but I hate to say it, but that's going to be... They're not going to do that. They're going to go all or nothing.
Well,
Yeah, you've got to be careful about suggesting stuff that has
Well, you remember when
dev work associated with it.
You remember
that's
where
just not going to happen.
Where they had the DRM mark, where like anything after, like they had the different kinds of blueprints, the ones without that were pre-DRM and after DRM. You have some really
The only other problem is the intention of keeping blueprints is to maintain the player's creativity, and if we break blueprints just so that certain people can't have certain advantages, it's going to eliminate a lot of that creativity.
I'm thinking along those
two more factors.
You've also got to consider if they do a wipe, the economy's wipe. People are not going to have free cash to buy blueprints in the very early game in order to gain that kind of advantage. It's only going to come, a month or two down the line.
Yeah, but
when
honestly...
the economy is finally bootstrapped and it's starting to get into free cash flow.
I was thinking about it for a completely different reason. Sorry.
The only advantage to getting rid of blueprints is the fact that some of those blueprints are built with broken mechanics. And I know that you can't place them based on stacking, but there are voxel issues such as... some of the voxel shit people used to do that causes major lag on the server. Those kind of things can still harm the server.
Yeah, that's what I was actually kind of getting at, is like, because they changed it to where you can't blueprint some of that old legacy stuff. Like, some of the older structures and stuff you can't blueprint anymore, because they're, like, broken or something or other.
Yeah.
And, like, anything after that timestamp, wherever that physical timestamp was that locked it out, I would just disable everything from prior to that. Any blueprint that was existing before that timestamp.
I mean, that would require them to have a timestamp on their blueprints, which I don't think they have.
They do. They are actually enabled on the server side.
Once you start talking, keeping talent points, keeping builders' blueprints, all that, you're already coding to certain aspects of people in this game. And it's going to piss the miners off. It's going to piss the industrial people off because they have to start over from scratch. I get it. Everybody says Lua people can bring their stuff over. There's nothing fair in this game, but if they're going to wipe, they just need to keep it clean and wipe everything. Everybody starts from day one, except for maybe we can't do anything about the Lua programmers.
That brings me to my second factor, the other one that's going to make more of a difference for the blueprints, which is that with Athena coming out soon, there's going to be a lot of new elements, and it's possible that in the new major content patch that's going to be after Athena, which should be the 1.0 launch, even more elements will be added, and ship blueprints are going to change so significantly that everyone's going to want to build something new anyway. However, it would be very good for people to keep some of their voxel work that they put hundreds of hours of effort into a blueprint so that they can carry it into the new world and use the pieces to build new things.
That's why I kind of
voxel libraries, basically.
I kind of wish there was a voxel only blueprint.
Yeah, I love that, and I want people to be able to carry forward their effort. But the fact of the matter is, in a wipe, many people are not getting to carry forward their effort. And it feels really weird for us to be picking and choosing and saying, well, these people get to pull forward their effort, but these people don't.
But you've also got to take into consideration the type of game that DU is. It's something I mentioned kind of earlier in the week. It is a creative building game in its primary concept. It has resource collection, it has industry, it has PvP. But at its core, it is a building creative game. And so the legacy of that simply just cannot be destroyed in a single go. You're just going to annoy too many people, and you're going to lose a core of the game that is going to take a long while to re-establish with new players.
Yeah, especially for those of us that have gone through it several times already.
Yeah. To be clear, to me, the point that I'm making is that's a point for no wipe, not a point for partial wipe. Like, if we're already picking and choosing who gets to actually carry forward their effort and who doesn't, like, I think we're started off at a bad part here.
Especially if it's just simply as...
Hey guys, if you're in the castle, refresh your rights and you should be able to take a seat.
But I was going to get into the second aspect of that, is talent points. Now, talent points are a kind of special factor in the game, is that they are essentially free from the corruption of exploits, in that you can only get it by having active game subscription time. And so that is something that can be looked at in a separate light as compared to everything else that is available just in game, and that you can get through other means.
That line of reasoning. But there is one factor that is rather pointed, is that one of the major imbalances in the game, and that I see from new players coming in all the time, is I can't sell anything on the market because I don't have level 5 industrial skills. And it's a huge advantage to go into a new game freshly out of the wipe with level 5 industrial skills. Means that all those new players coming in are going to feel like they just can't cut it. It's frustrating.
To some degree,
because it's the artificial leveling of your ore cost, what you perceive as an ore cost, against your final element cost. With the mining units, you've got essentially kind of passive income of ore that doesn't cost you anything. So your base price of elements isn't actually tied to your ore cost anymore. It's, if you want to focus it more on kind of your base cost, it's going to be your tile tax costs that is going to dictate what your element cost should be. But it's been proven out in many MMOs, and I'm going to refer back to Eve here for all my sins, the number of times that final element cost has absolutely no link to market ore cost has been proven time and time again.
What's the name of the VR station, Serapis?
Ember City. If you want to go to that one, I'm about to set up one in the castle.
See, that's like that actually kind of one of the things I've always argued, that there should be items that have to be found, not made. That way, it's a random luck of the draw whether you find these items or not. But that's besides the point. That would kind of give a new player like an equal chance to actually find these items and actually have something to sell that isn't determined based on skill. But I mean, that's a point for a whole different subject.
Yeah, and then you can kind of carry on. It's you wipe, everyone starts out at the same talent point level, but then a month, 2 months down the line, you've got more new players coming in. They're always going to be behind the talent point curve.
But that kind of also,
where do you draw the line?
That also kind of screws over all of us that have been paying in for all this time too.
But this is what I'm saying. Even with a wipe, I would definitely advocate for keeping talent points, even if they are refunded. Simply because talent points are the only thing that have not been corrupted by any kind of exploits during alpha and beta. They're the only thing that you can gain through paid game time that is of real world consequence. And so it's the kind of the one point that you can argue is the real value of having spent this time through beta.
Well, people may have acquired beta keys from, or the currency to get the keys through exploits or whatever, which then expanded the talent point network beyond a single character. So like, there might be other things, where like, yeah, I don't know, you can't think of it because it's just like on another level. But that's why I agree. If we're gonna wipe, do it all of it. Like,
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but at some point, someone would have had to have paid NQ some money in order for that beta key to exist, whether it came through an alpha account or through a beta surrogate program or whatever. And it is purely something that you can only get by having active game time.
Well, there was
a fair argument. However, I would like to point out that when we started playing Dual Universe and we read through the agreement, for those of us who did, that we agreed that we were paying per month or we were using our beta key in order to access the game. That is what we paid for. We didn't pay for talent points. We didn't pay for constructs. We didn't pay for blueprints. We paid for the privilege of logging in, and after the month had already gone through that we had paid for, that service had been completed and fulfilled. We got what we paid for.
Hey guys, entrance to the castle is on the east side of the castle. That's where you go to get in.
I've got like 8 characters and all mine are paid up for a year. So, I mean, it is what it is.
So, okay, to your point about us paying for access and that being the only thing that was guaranteed, do you not think that we shouldn't have a reasonable expectation to be able to carry forward the value of the time we've invested in building this game and building the community that supports it?
That is a thing that I feel about, but it is not a thing that I can put on paper and expect NQ to reimburse us in some legal way. There is surely the expectation that everything that we have done to test the game and to provide NQ with the information they need to make a better game is worth something. But we can't put that into a quantifiable amount. We can't say that this is what this is worth.
Quantitative, maybe not, but qualitative, yes.
For a reasonable expectation, like if I was gonna take just an educated guess, I would be willing to bet that it's probably gonna keep skill points, scrap everything else, and that's kind of what I'm just guessing that this is going to end up being. But I mean,
I think they're keeping blueprints. That's honestly sure in my mind. Other people may disagree, but
yeah, from the demo they put out, every single option they put out on that is keeping blueprints.
That would fit with what they've done in the past.
Back to that subject, though, I would say they're probably only going to keep the blue blueprints. Anything that's like the old legacy yellow stuff. If you've seen those floating around, the ones that were from like pre-DRM, they're like yellow.
Mm-hmm.
I would surely expect those probably to go away.
Isn't yellow just statics?
Statics are orange.
Statics, purple is space.
No, they have like a yellow one that was like pre-DRM. There's like a bunch of legacy blueprints. I've got some of SERP's old legacy stuff. That is like
from the alpha. I have blueprints that are pre-DRM that I built pre-DRM, and they're still blue blueprints. They look like the other ones. Either way, if they're so old that they were into the alpha, there's a very strong likeliness that they're horrifically out of date by now, and that people would want to build something new instead. But that was a very long time ago, as opposed to the entire year or so that has been in development since the release of the DRM blueprints.
For those of you that are wondering, I am showing currently showing in Discord the in-stream the round table where everybody's at.
Yeah, I would like to be able to
sign in and touch.
If they did let people keep talent points, I'd prefer if there was like a system that like doled them out faster to people rather than just wham, you have 75 million points or whatever.
Yes, that is a good point. If they are going to allow beta testers to keep talent points as a kind of recompense, then it only makes sense to limit the amount they're going to get right out of the gate in order to make things a little bit more even and stable and enjoyable for the first month or two of the game when everyone is in fact doing all that first time stuff.
I'm hesitant to do anything that's like accelerated though, because then you have to actually be an active player.
Hold on one
during that
second, guys.
accelerated time period. Yeah, go.
Just before I pull anybody else into channel, make sure you read the rules, accept the rules, and once you are pulled into channel, you are expected to abide by those rules, or you will be removed from the channel. I hope that is clear. Wolf,
Now,
you need
as
to read
a-
the rule channel and go to rules acceptance and hit that and type accepted in there before we pull you down.
So in kind of addressing the idea of releasing talent points over time, they have made mention to multipliers for, as a bonus. So it could be that, over the first month you have your pool that you had before beta, however many it may be. It's for full beta, it's probably about 80 million by now. That over the first month, that gets doled out at a higher rate than full new bros, and so within a month or two, depending on what the time frame would be, you get back to your old state, but you still have that kind of progression.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is I really don't like that idea, because then people who aren't active during that month just lose it, basically.
I can see where you're coming from, but also I want to point out that the point in the game at which is the talent points is going to be the most significant and that people are going to have the most problems with is just during those first 2 months. After that, like they said, new players come in all the time. People who were there before them now have an advantage over them. It's inescapable. But the fresh period after the wipe is going to be a significantly increased attention and
Yeah, no. To be clear, I mean the people who have been playing for the whole beta but quit this week because of the word, and if they don't happen to log back in during that particular month, they just don't get any of the benefit. Those are the kinds of people that I'm referring to.
Well, I mean, you can just limit it to the first month of your gameplay when you return. So
in regard to a full wipe, as a beta player myself, I'm this might not be the most popular opinion in the room. As a beta player myself, with about 80 million points as well, I really would not be too terribly hurt if they wiped the talent points. The thing I care about the most is keeping the work that I put into the voxel work. That is my main thing. If we all started off at 0 on talent points, I think that would level the playing field. But I still get to keep all my voxel work to pull from as a voxel library. That'd be great. I mean, I would be okay with that personally. Once again, probably not the most popular opinion, but that's just where I stand.
Yeah, but everyone's going to have a vested interest in what to keep during a wipe.
Yeah.
So it's
If they said
you've got to think about what is going to be the balance.
If they said this wipe will, when we finally do wipe, this wipe will fix all the current bugs, update things, hitboxes won't be readjusted. Everything that's in game right now is fine. I mean, we're launching, everything's good. It doesn't need to be wiped ever again because everything's fixed and it's future proofed. I would be fine with a complete and total wipe, blueprints, everything. If it meant that we wouldn't have to deal with any future problems with things like that, but it's unlikely that's ever going to be able to happen.
They could even say hey, you could pick your top 10 blueprints. These are the ones you're going to keep. I mean, that would be something that would be a compromise.
I'll be completely honest with
blueprints wouldn't even hold a minor fraction of all of what I've done.
I'll be completely honest with you. This is probably going to be the most unpopular opinion of a builder. Honestly, the blueprints, I don't care.
Okay.
I can rebuild everything I've built without a blueprint. And to be honest, I look forward to building things with the game after full release based on what changes I see coming. It's going to be a new challenge. All the ships I have are going to have to be reworked anyway, some degree. I'm going to have to rebuild them in some degree. I mean, honestly, if I want blueprints to be valid for voxel work, I'm better off stripping the elements off of them, just keeping the voxels and praying to God everything works with that. But yeah, keeping blueprints, it's great and all. Yeah, you get to keep your intellectual property, but at the same time, technically speaking, when we join this game and we play this game, there are disclaimers stating they own the designs. I mean, NovaCorp owns the designs. They can do whatever they want to with them. They can use them in their streams, their marketing. We don't get paid for that. But when it comes down to the voxel work, I can redo all that crap. I mean, yeah, it might take some time, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have to redo all the damn elements.
And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing like a lot of the legacy stuff go away and new designs. It would be kind of cool.
Some of my designs, though, are happy accidents. I don't think I could repeat them.
Yes.
It's kind of it's that difference between keeping some record of the legacy of the creative talent that's happened during alpha and beta, but also realizing the meta is always going to change. You know, they're introducing the changes in weapons meta that they did during beta, the changes that they're introducing with the new containers and the new engine tiers and things like that. That's going to change the meta again. What I would like to see is some effort made towards some kind of library that we can, option old ship designs, old construct designs towards, so that it is still available in game for new people to visit and see the progression that has happened, but may not be continuously available for whatever reason. It's been wiped, or the creator doesn't play anymore but it is still available to enrich the worlds that we play in.
They may be able to actually pull an instance, like a VR instance or something like that actually splits off. That you could actually go in and look at some of the more famous stuff.
I look over at my screen and I see this cheeseball smile with him holding up a sign.
For me to even stomach a wipe, they're talking about better planet tech, get rid of all the garbage that has slowed down the server over years. As soon as you start talking about keeping old blueprints or be able to bring over stuff from the old server, there's no point
Honestly,
for a wipe, because
Crazy Horse is right. There's no middle of the ground. Either you do it or you don't. And if you're going to do it, do it all the way. Because no matter what way we adjust it or what way we try to accommodate people, some people are going to be screwed and some people are going to benefit.
Well, that's valid points, everyone.
That's why they can't stop people from deploying old blueprints. They can improve it so you can't build like that anymore, but old blueprints still work. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen core stack element ships work up until now, or I've heard of guns working on smaller cores, bigger guns on smaller cores. They just need to get rid of the garbage.
Like whenever you go into those VR sessions for the new player experience and stuff, that's actually a private instance. It's not like an actual public instance like we're on now. It's an isolated instance that is only nothing in there matters. It's like local to your machine only. So you could actually have some of the more iconic stuff as just kind of like look at this stuff. It's kind of cool. I mean, that you could probably do without actually impacting the main game.
So here's an idea that I've kind of been rolling around in my head. If NQ were to come out with some sort of tool that is able to take the copy and paste data of voxels and turn it into character text for you to save on notepad files, you could preserve your hard work for voxels without carrying over the blueprint.
Yeah, but that's another development thing that you're looking at.
I don't see that ever happening. I mean, I agree. That would be great. I think
can maybe do it, right?
I think what might be more viable along the same lines is, and this would make me be okay with full white blueprints included, is give us a builder mode that does not require us to actually have voxels or elements
they were actually
in order to put together a blueprint. Because when you put together a blueprint, the idea of putting together a blueprint is to come up with a design before you put the parts of it together, not the other way around.
Well, I remember they were talking about that in Alpha about an offline build system.
That was originally part of the goal.
They already have everything they need to implement this.
Yeah, that was originally part of the goal. That was one of the things they wanted to do, was have what's called a free build mode, where you were in a private instance that was like an open environment and you could just freely build whatever you want to, create the blueprint, and then import the blueprint to the game. Other games like Empyrean have that as creative mode.
If they could just develop that tool, forget the blueprints, because part of the problem with the blueprints the last time they did a wipe was if you try to deploy a blueprint from say the late
Yeah.
alpha,
Yeah, they have a
wouldn't
conflict.
work with the beta. So
You know what they could do? They could probably actually just mass delete all elements from all blueprints.
Yeah, that would actually be kind
probably
of cool.
And just
be
leave
more.
everyone with only voxel-only blueprints.
Yeah, but that would be
But then they would have to figure out how to make those deployable without the elements, because
Well,
if you don't have the elements,
the elements be removed from the blueprint is what they're saying. It wouldn't be required for the blueprint.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
So all blueprints would suddenly just become element
Okay, guys, we got a Evatea, Crazy Horse, we got a Tional, Space Cat, Space Panther, Vamp Skull, Drakostan, Gilda, Abelida Rache, Andre de Seneca, Raphael, Wolfram, Chick Bungus, and a Jubinus. All here at the round table, and a Corsaria, Smallbell, and an Abadacus. If you want to get here, VR over to the castle and a Gilda 80. XVX Castle fades, and you'll be right outside the door here.
So before we get back into the
we should
detail,
get,
I think we need to take a step back and remember all of these suggestions take dev time, and that is simply something NQ do not have.
Yeah.
They don't have the resources and they don't have the time frame to do anything particularly serious. So anything that we come up with has to be within the current game mechanics and reusing or retasking current game elements, UI, and back-end code.
I would think that mass element delete would probably be not very intensive because it would just be a macro. Like it would be like a script that would run against.
I think that would be more work than most people are realizing.
Yeah.
Well, so the other thing I was gonna say is like, either way, I don't care wipe or not. That's my honest opinion. I would do well in either form. But one of the reasons I would like a wipe is this community needs a fucking wipe, right? Like the entire time I've played this game, there are people that bring up shit that has happened in alpha and early alpha and mid alpha and early beta and when JC left and after JC left. There's all these like wounds that we just need to get the fuck rid of. Like even in my own org, one guy in our org got the free schematics or the whatever the 1% schematics, and like he still gets roasted for that, dude. How long ago is that? And people just can't drop it. You're just gonna wipe everything, dude. Just wipe it all.
Well, you won't erase the history of how this game started, no matter.
Yeah, but the real reason people complain about it is because they got an advantage of some sort.
And we're still, like, believe it or not, we're still suffering from the effects of that market that got deleted that one time. Like, it still crops up from time to time, market errors. And that's been around since that market got raided that one time.
A list of whether personal or group or community or game-wide offenses that we can just wipe away is so fucking massive.
I mean, the thing is, then, like, we'll just start making a new list?
Yes, 100%. We are definitely going to start with a new list, right? But, like, there are multiple people, and I saw it last night in AD's stream, that, like, they are, like, burnt out on this wipe conversation. It's like killing them. Like,
well, that's the reason why we've been trying. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the focus in this chat hasn't necessarily been, is there going to be a wipe? It's how are we going to handle it if there is or if there isn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just gonna say it. Like, I don't think there's any way around it. So, I mean, I wish they would just come out and say, yeah, this is gonna happen, and this is when it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it seems pretty obvious it's going to happen.
It would be wonderful if NQ would simply declare their decision so that we can begin preparing for it, so that we can begin moving forward instead of standing still and wishing for something else.
I can certainly see the value in that. The problem with it is, if the wipe is going to be 2 weeks before launch, and if launch is, end of the year, Q3 or whatever, there's a period of 6 months of where they're going to have pretty much their entire player base saying, well, what is the point of logging in?
True.
Honestly, I know,
and that's what they're trying to avoid.
It's already there.
Yeah,
I know it's already started, but you're going to have people coming back and saying, if they're not wiping for quite a while, or if there's the possibility of keeping skill points, is there possibility of keeping blueprints, then people will still.
But Lua doesn't go away.
Yeah, Lua doesn't go away,
Yeah,
but that's a different side of things.
something they don't have control of. That's
If
yeah.
NQ come out and say there will be a wipe in 6 months' time, I guarantee you next week the vast majority of people will not log in because they simply say, well, what is the point of logging in until they actually do the wipe?
You just incentivize people to log in. Like literally, it's the easiest solution. NQ owns not only Quanta post-launch or whatever, but skins. It owns things now, like assets that are in the game now, like the recruit friend skins. Like if you play, you get a spin on some random wheel and some random skins. Like incentivize the behavior instead of just, well, you get your talent points or you get, your buildings you built.
Yeah, I don't think gimmicks is gonna work for that.
That guy still need beer?
I mean, I'm a diehard player, and ever since they came out with that dev blog, I haven't logged in. Today was the first time in 3 days. And that's probably the first time it's been like that in 2 years without logging in.
I haven't
every
logged
day.
in.
Honestly,
Can I say something real quick? Like, I've been playing DU since the server started working, and since alpha. In my backer way back then, and I can tell you this is not new. We had a wipe in alpha, and I can tell you that one hurts because everybody was in creative mode. Everybody was building like crazy and just having like blueprints for everything. And you know what happened? Like that didn't port in, but you had so much skill coming into the game to beta that I think it was a blessing in disguise because you actually were more precise on what you were building. I don't think that wipe will be detrimental to the gameplay. I think veteran players, in a way, are gonna find it a little bit like a blessing in a way because you're gonna be efficient with your time and with your resources if a wipe happens, and there's the excitement of building. Of making new things again, and if you do that, and if it gets to that point, and even if you don't have even talent points, just starting from scratch again, I don't think that's bad. Well, it's bad because it's gonna hurt because of the work you did, but actually you hold all that experience in, and for people who have worked with designs and with Lua, all that stuff, man, you can get to keep that. And it doesn't matter if you don't have a blueprint. You even with a screenshot of your ship, you would manage to get it back.
And to support your point, I didn't think about this until you just said what you did, but all the work we put into all the stuff we've created is really important to us for the time we put into it. But the fact that it's finite, that it will not last forever, just makes the experience of having created that stuff more valuable.
And like Core said,
exactly,
this may be a building game, but I'm not a builder. So if they do wipe and everything that I had is gone because I wasn't a builder and I don't do blueprints, but you guys get all your blueprints and stuff, what's the fairness in that?
I hate saying this, but honestly, part of me is kind of looking forward to a potential wipe because I'm looking forward to that initial group. I mean, I've got a good group of people in XVX, and it's growing every day. People are wanting to be here after a wipe because they know we're a good group. And that motivation, I'm kind of starting to look forward to that, hitting the ground running as a group and doing something and organizing things and knocking the shit out the park, yo.
I agree with that. I do share that sentiment, but with just one little caveat, which is that we're talking about what's going to be good for the game in the long term, and that hitting the ground running thing is going to happen once.
Oh, I know that, and I'm aware of that, but I'm kind of there's enough changes coming in Athena, and there's enough other changes that are coming over the next few weeks. I think small things that over the next few months that I think that now is a good time for that change because there's a lot at this point. I mean, if you guys think about the game where we are now versus where we started off in beta, It's an entirely different game. I mean, the entire way you do everything in this game is completely different. PvP is completely different. Industry is completely different. Building ships, completely different. Even Lua is completely different in a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways that you can't even compare the game that we're playing now to what we had when we started beta. The only thing that's similar is the fact that it graphically looks the same.
Also, I think every DU player at some point, like during their experience with the game, was like living on a razor's edge. And whether it was a wipe or a break change or a ship crash or not finding a mega node for 16 weeks or whatever it was, it would just like push you over the edge. Like once again, like I feel like the community is on edge. We've been on a roller coaster, and like even if there's only one race, hopefully it's just like one lineup, baby.
I would also like to just take one moment to address the fact that we're all kind of looking at what's about to happen next, even though we know that if there's a wipe, it's not going to be tomorrow or next week. It's kind of the next thing in our minds, the next big thing that's going to happen. And we might not be giving as much thought or feeling to what comes after that. No one likes the feeling of, you know, being on, I don't know, a handheld game or whatever, and someone comes up and just whacks it out of your hand. That's cause for outrage. People have strong feelings about that. But if you stopped playing the game for a little while and you put it down, you went and did something else, and then you came back in and it was a different game, there wouldn't be that outrage there. You just have to get used to it.
Me personally, I love the excitement of starting something new and starting over. I love it whenever servers wipe, especially like when we play Imperion. That was one of my favorite things, is starting off and getting established, you know?
As an investor, anyone interested in the project, if I've seen a decision made that caused mass exodus of subs again, I would lose faith in the business. Jimmy, I agree with that to some extent, but also at the same time, there's a lot of things that they're wanting to do to improve the overall gameplay, and I think, I hate to say this, but we are beta players. We're testers. And I know we're paying a sub, some of us are, some of us aren't, but at the same time, we are beta testers, and we had to know that this was a potential coming out of the starting gate, because every other flipping company does a wipe at full release. Every one of them.
A MMO type game, like this is a
sandbox MMO. Every
sandbox MMO, you know.
Yeah, it's that kind of feeling of sunk cost, and it's something we just kind of have to move past and think, what is the best for the game? What is the best for the, you know, for NQ as a business in keeping this going for the amount of time that we want to see it go for?
Honestly,
we've all been here. In the vast majority, certainly, I recognise a lot of names in this chat for the last 18 months, 2 years. We want to be here in 2 years' time, again, in 5 years' time, still doing this, looking at the amazing constructs, listening to the amazing stories that people have come out with in this game, because we are a community, and that is what we want to continue.
Yeah, we want this game to succeed for this at the same time next year. You know, we want this to be here, and if it means a wipe to bring that in, then, you know, that's what needs to happen.
Well, I'm looking at it from the
There's going to be a moment of pain. We're going to be really pissed for a couple of days or a week because we lost all of our stuff, but that's going to be followed by 3 or 4 weeks or even a couple of months of, wow, this is really intense gameplay, and we're meeting new people and making new things.
Yeah, the how quickly you get into that strategy of playing the new game again with the knowledge that we've got from the past 2 years is just going to wipe out that feeling very, very quickly, I feel.
And when I was doing people that you didn't have to be the first time, you know, for those that have joined
helping
communities, you know,
helping people, helping the new bros on board, and you know, giving your knowledge out and saying this is a better way of kind of progressing through your game.
Can I say something real quick? Okay, so from the perspective of both, I've been playing MMOs since flipping Ultima Online, okay, and I've been running the same gaming group since Ultima Online. One thing I've always noticed amongst the members of this group, even though they have changed over the years, is there's always that excitement for that new adventure. That's what they're looking for. And with the gameplay changes, with the patches that are coming out soon, especially Athena, I think honestly, once we actually get into the game and get to doing it, there's not going to be any anger. I mean, yeah, we lost shit, but I mean, if you played any kind of MMO at all, you lose shit. I mean, look at EVE Online, man. I mean, Linear probably remembers this. We were in a wormhole one night, logged back on the next morning. Everything was gone. 6 years of work gone. You know, and it was all because one of our senior citizen members gave the wrong person permissions. Dual Universe has no sense of major loss possibility like that. So I think that's part of our problem. I mean, I hate to say this, but we're spoiled.
I don't think we've got that sense of loss yet, but it's simply because we haven't had the kind of the length of time and breadth of community that other MMOs have had to build it up. But that will come.
Oh, I know it will.
You will get to the stage where, you know, someone sets that RDMS policy wrong and your entire space station network disappears.
Yeah.
That's going to sting. But it will become a story, like stories
Honestly, though,
coming
the
out of
likelihood
Eve.
of that is part of what I like about this game. Like, I never played Eve because that's not the game that I want to play.
But that's the thing. With Eve, you didn't have to. I mean, you could stay in high sec and you were fine. You had options of gameplay, which is the same thing you have in DU. But still, even in high sec, in Eve, when you were playing and running missions, you stood the chance of losing your ship to rats. You stood the chance of losing your ship in a mission. And once you lost your ship, you lost your ship. You know, but I guess I've spent so much time in games like that where loss was such a major part of the game that now, you know, I'm just kind of looking forward to the breath of fresh air in this game. Something different, something new. I mean, right now, Drax is still on Alioth. Why is Drax still on Alioth? Because he's got a lot of shit there he doesn't want to move. There are so many organizations in this game right now that people are tied down because of all the built-up crap that their old groups did together that are no longer there, and they're still sitting there trying to keep the stuff together. And they don't want to move it.
Not nothing new. It's just wiping and doing the same grind over to get back to where you are.
Yeah,
There's
not
nothing
really,
new
though.
about it. No, there's not. It's mining units. It's getting schematics. If it's not schematics, it's something else. It's building quanta. They haven't introduced really no new gameplay in months.
I have a question. I'm sorry I'm late to the chat, so I missed a lot of it. But a lot of things I've talked to, especially today, is if the solution to the wipe, we all agree wipe's pretty much necessary. It's coming. Blah blah blah. Now, what's to stop it from beating it again in 2 years?
The difference in that is that it'll be a live game. It'll go through launch.
But is there going to be another one though before the launch?
I don't think we have. Honestly, I don't think we have that long before it launch.
I don't either, but because I mean, but it's one of those things that they talked about this at the beginning of beta, because I was here at the beginning where they were having this debate, the same debate of they were like, we're not going to wipe beta, we're going to let you keep, or blah blah blah. There was the rumor that they were going to do it, blah. But what's to stop them from saying, okay, the wipe fixed it, okay, now we're launching the game, but we're going to do another wipe?
I don't think they're going to do a double wipe like that, honestly.
I don't think, but it's something that was brought up, and it's to me for a couple times today by players who are quitting because they don't longer trust what NQ says. And that was just I don't know if it was been talked about. Like I said, I've been late to the chat. I had real life stuff, but
that's what I said earlier. Is if they're going to wipe, make sure that when they do wipe, because they'll probably at launch, that they future-proof it so that they don't need to do it again.
And I think they're going to have the time to. During the beta, they've had to cram a lot of their efforts and programming into generating the content that's going to be required for the 1.0 launch. And as we're playing after the 1.0 launch, they may be able to use some of that time instead to develop tools which will enable them to handle things like this without pushing the big red nuke button, They've already gone to pretty extreme lengths to make sure that they haven't had to wipe the beta so far. I think that by the time 1.0 finally rolls around and all of the core systems are in place, they'll be able to find solutions without wiping, no matter how drastic the change is.
I think that they need to do is if they're going to do this in the future, if there's an issue like, for instance, the blueprint thing, if there's a problem like that, they need to take a more active role and say, okay, well, we're rolling this bitch back, and you might not like it, but people might like it, but be more strict on that situation. Be like, yeah, it's too bad. It was a fuck up. We accept it. We're not gonna let it stand though. So it's getting rolled back, even if it was freaking 9 hours, 24 hours, whatever. We're gonna roll this thing back to a previous snapshot. And be more ruthless to those who take advantage of the system.
In the
future.
I'm just that they've learned from the mistakes of non-rollbacks, because
permabans and account wipes, whatever needs to be done. That when people take advantage of bugs and exploits, that there is consequences to them taking advantage of things like that.
It's not just that NQ needs to be on the ball with their own stuff as well. Like, look at missions. How long has the community been saying, guys, come on, people are earning billions in very short amount of time doing these missions because they're able to stack them. How long has it taken NQ to fix this, and now what has it caused?
Yeah, I see your point.
Maybe they had no rush to fix anything because they knew all along they were wiping.
But they lose that option completely in release. So unless they want to do seasonal rights, which will absolutely kill this game, they need to change their trend. That needs to change rapidly.
Yes, but it goes back to the issue that this is the beta. The whole idea is that they kind of roll out these ideas, they test the water, they make their mistakes, and get the balance right. At launch, you would hope they would have that knowledge in place. They would learn from their mistakes, and that first introduction of new mechanics would be a lot more considered. Beta is about kind of polishing game loops, but also testing ideas of what the game can be and how those loops interact to make sure it doesn't run into these imbalances, which it's shown in this particular case. Those imbalances have shown up. I agree that NQ should have been a lot more on the ball in correcting those balances, but then we've also got to remember they're a small dev studio, and that kind of thing takes massive manual dev time to
That's actually a response I've gotten
correct.
from Deckard. He's like, I'm so glad you find these things for us and you document them and you send them to us, but fuck you, because we don't have time for this. Like, literally, there's nothing they got a whiteboard and we can come and find everything, but like same with missions, we could be vocal and be like, yo, gotta change this, but like on the whiteboard it's number 8, and they're working on 7 things before it.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, if they don't fix them right away, they're just after the launch, they're gonna have another wipe issue.
Yeah, no, I think everybody's on the same page. The wipe makes 0 sense if all these like known issues aren't fixed and future issues that pop up aren't dealt with differently. It's like if there's some weird little thing they release and then everybody's selling whatever silicon honeycomb to some dude, you know what I mean? Like whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's just gonna kill it all again.
I have a question for all you guys. What about PvP? When we're talking about PvP, there's no talk about PvP anymore. Why? We need PvP.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Don't need PvP.
I've been involved in PvP.
PvP will not save this game, and the game doesn't need PvP. It is an aspect of the game that makes this game enjoyable, but we don't need it.
Yeah,
it's just an aspect with many other aspects that roll into one to make a very successful game.
I disagree with needing it, because at this point it's the only way for elements to go in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a necessity, but it's not a necessity for every player.
Can I pipe in on that? I think honestly PvP has been underestimated in its value and also undervalued by MQ. If PvP were implemented in a way that was more productive and actually a positive influence in the game, it would be a major drive for industry, it'd be a major drive for exploration, it'd be a major drive for challenge in the game. But the way that it's been implemented, it's very lacking in its potential and very restrictive in its implementation. There's a lot of things that we would like to be able to do that we can't do. It's the reason why I don't PvP. It's to me, it's very monotonous.
Yeah, but you've
Because
got to
it clashes
understand
with the
it's
creative aspects. In a
it's
game like Space Engineers, PvP is also quite popular, but only on servers where you can push a button and get everything back. When you spend hours and hours grinding materials to build a ship or to get your design together and everything you have to do, and then one pirate shoots you out of the sky, and an entire week of your effort is just gone. It doesn't feel good.
Dude, you forget, I'm an Eve player. I've had years of work shot out of the sky in a single minute.
But see,
But I
everybody.
That's true.
I
No,
disagree with
you
the
have
hours of work because even in
Hey, chime
art,
in here. You do build them in Eve.
Yeah,
you
you do
have
build
a
it.
building system.
Well, this is the thing in Eve.
It's not like this.
Like
Not
one ship
building.
doesn't
Create
win
the
a
build.
war. You need economies, and the cool thing about Eve is that you get to build organizations around methods and proven like activities that give you the economy, so you can win the war. That's how every war in Eve is ultimately like won. And if we can bring mechanics here where you have the miners and you have the builders and you have the PvPers all working in one organization to one goal, oh man, that's purpose right there. That's content.
And I mean, you
yes,
guys
but
don't
you've
know
got,
this,
there's
but
two sides of it. Is one is there simply isn't that kind of the player base to support the level of PvP that you're talking about there. At the moment, there just isn't the numbers out in space to have spontaneous interaction in that particular way. And also, it's the basic game mechanics and the server back end of how PvP is conducted in, it's lock and shoot, it's not FPS style, that is not going to give you the kind of PvP that people are looking for, that they've seen in other games, and they've want, okay, we want fast-paced arcade style fighting that just isn't supported in this game. This is a more, I kind of, inverted commas, realistic form of space combat, in that it's done at distance, it's done at speed, it's done at radar signatures rather than face to face. And so there is a fundamental disconnect between the style of PvP that a lot of people are advocating for and that the server tech actually supports.
You really need a risk and reward. Like a reward could be something you can translate into game subscriptions, for example. I don't know, DAX. You can, like, DAX has to be a thing that they're going to implement in the game. So imagine the PvP rewards are given in DAX because you hold a territory. It's like a capture the hill type of game, or whatever type of PvP arena you create for creating the PvP content. The rewards have to be there for people to actually invest in doing the PvP.
And that's what they're introducing with the alien cores, is you're given specific hills to capture and hold and defend. The issue is how many people can you get into those scenarios for it to be, one, worth keeping, two, an enjoyable experience that actually gives you that, instant combat idea, rather than it's two or three people that show up and you're effectively kind of sweeping the anthill off for the next people.
Well, with the current PvP, the way it is now, that it would require a full wipe at start, because you're going to have elements of this game that already have control over certain things. They already have the existing power, and that is going to give an unfair advantage.
Honestly, the way the PvP is now, and the low numbers in PvP, is only a result of the way the PvP is been handled in the game.
Exactly, but people are still going to monopolize on that. There's groups of people that will continue.
Hold on one second. Tony, I'm going to warn you once. No name calling. If it happens again, you're out of the channel. Okay, go ahead.
I lost my train.
I apologize, but
no, you're fine. You're fine. There's elements in the game now that have a set power, and we won't mention anybody for anything. So that's going to carry over past launch. So there's going to be people with control and power over certain elements of the game that's going to make it next to impossible for new players to get a hold to. But that leads me to my main point on the arguments for a wipe or no wipe. I don't want to wipe because I've got a lot invested in the game. A lot of people don't want to wipe because they have a lot invested in the game, but it's a necessary thing for this game to move forward in the past. A lot of people's argument is that it's an unfair advantage to us veteran players to new players. That's a BS argument because in 2 years down the road, when some new guy comes along to play the game, we have an unfair advantage over him at that point. So this making it fair for new players that's a bullshit argument. We need to take that completely out of the mix.
And veteran players are going to be scanning for titanium on Lacubus within 4 days of wipe, I guarantee.
Exactly. So the new player, let's get that new player thing out of the air because that has nothing to do with this. What it has to do with is the advantage that people currently hold now is going to be unfair to even those of us that play now. I like PvP. I love blowing shit up, but I don't because there's an unfair advantage in the game for that already. There are groups of people that have the power that prevent you from going to certain asteroids, and it's going to carry over into the alien cores when they come out.
Hey guys, so you keep going for a second. I got to deal with a child issue. I will be right back, but I'm gonna leave everything up where y'all can still be heard. Okay?
You handle it, brother.
One factor I just do want to point out is that PvP mechanics are changing a lot with Athena. We're going to see shield nerfs. We're going to see some weapon changes. Max speed, that's huge. That was a huge part of PvP meta.
Oh, yeah.
We have the alien cores. So it's possible that our opinion on what PvP should look like or what it should be done to it to make it better is going to look totally different 1 month from now.
And there's also no at launch what they're going to change at that point. There's small patch happening, and we don't know what type of mega patch is going to be at launch that they're just not telling us about or leaving even let hints of what's happening. There could be a lot that they're holding back. We could be getting like static cannons or something like that on our weapons that we don't know about.
That's true, but it's also speculation because we don't have anything to base it on.
Right, we don't know.
It's coming, and we can kind of see that it's going to take action.
I don't want to follow on what Invitair is saying. It's basically, the PvP is what is the objective of PvP at the moment. At the moment, it is literally just go out, shoot someone. That is the end game of PvP at the moment.
Exactly.
The introduction of the alien cores with these speed changes, and hopefully when at launch we get an increase in player base, it is going to be holding an objective, going on the offensive for that objective, taking territories, taking space cores, defending areas of space, like Empire have tried to do, and we've seen with kind of planetary embargoes during some of the events. When we get a kind of critical mass of players in the PvP space, there will be a better objective of doing PvP other than just going out and trying and find someone to shoot in the face.
That's exactly right.
Can I add something to the PvP aspect just from a non-PvPer point of view too? As far as the risk versus reward, there is no reward for me in PvPing because, for one, I'm not a shipbuilder. So if I want a PvP, I have to go find a buddy who will build me a ship or buy it. So there I'm already investing a huge amount of money just in a blueprint alone, or a token, which is even more. And two, I have no talent, so I'm going to go going against the players who are level 5 in all the aspects of their PvP talent.
That's why we're going for the with the
Yeah, I
changes.
know. That's a miss.
You can
I'm
have
a fucking
level
master
5.
PvP player.
No.
None of us have a level 5 on
Not, I don't say everything. I mean, just in,
Okay,
just
I'm back,
in
guys.
their, like lasers. You could, if you focus on lasers, you probably have a character who is level 5 in lasers and the radar, and
Yeah, but
so
we
they can
play a
acquire. game
game made by NQ, so rather than put all our eggs in one basket, we spread it out. Because if they nerf lasers, then you're fucked.
Yeah, but my point is I have a huge amount of disadvantage because I'm already having to buy a blueprint and ship because I don't know how to build, or I have a crappy builder in the
Truth
first
is,
place.
the
But
largest disadvantage you have is that you don't know how to fly in a PvP fight.
There's a lot of people that don't, and there's other games that are in the same way. Just because you have the skill points slotted for lasers, don't mean you know jack shit about how to lose them. The experience is on the person themselves. Quit looking at skill points as a limitation. If you want to do it, you got to go learn how to do it.
It does address the limits of PvP for someone trying to get into it. But I think one thing that Taylor was also trying to bring up is there's no profit in it. And that's fairly true. Almost anyone who goes into PvP and doesn't win is going to see massive net losses.
Exactly. And that I fully agree with that.
And honestly, even if you win, you still can see losses depending on how much ammo you used.
Right.
How much damage you took.
There really is no win element in DU.
Fjordface says make PvP require math too.
Sorry, my fiance came in. I was listening, but my fiance was in my ear. No, and I guess I worded that wrong where I said it's the talents I am at a disadvantage, and because again I don't know the flight system and how to stop my warp cell just before to get ahead of a ship because I never PvP'd. I am a full-on Care Bear. I will admit it. But
for PvP to exist, it's going to require Care Bears and PvPers alike.
But
so not having the PvP skills should not dissuade you from PvP.
But I am trying to learn. But I've already spent in the last, just because before the wipe happened, I just spent 300 mil on ships and blueprints trying to get into it because I had just to try to get into it. And I mean, it's right now we're all extremely 300 mil is not a lot at the moment for a lot of players.
KB,
but
how many people we have in here that actively PvP right now?
I don't right now, but I have quite a bit.
Right now, how many people right now actively PvP? I know we got Gelda, KB. Who else? Anybody?
I feel like that might be enough. I know
a few dozen.
Okay.
I did a lot. Not anymore.
Okay, so in PvP, everything I've always heard the same thing from everybody. The number one requirement is that you have a good pilot.
Exactly.
Yep. It has nothing to do with the gunnery skills or none of that shit like that. You can have a ship full of people with all the gunnery skills in the world. Whoever has the best pilot, 9 out of 10 times is going to win, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Knows
But
their
correct me-
optimal, knows their optimal, and then knows how to keep them within 2 SU.
And all that's changing. All of that's going to change right now.
It's hard to keep people at 2 SU. Now add fucking 20,000 and some rockets to 2 SU. It's going to get crazy.
Exactly. With the new changes, it's going to be harder for existing pilots that are good in PvP. With the coming changes, they are going to have to relearn.
Let's say you're in an S core on the PTS right now, and your range on your weapons is like 17 kilometers. Try and chase a ship and hold 17 kilometers.
It's a pain in the ass.
Okay, bump it up to an M. Try and hold 70 kilometers on a ship, whether it can go 20k and you're using stasis, or it can go 45k and you're not using stasis. Like, there's so many combos.
In the current model, it's hard enough to maintain 1.5 SU on a target. I'm not going to say it's not going to be possible to do in the new model, but it's going to be harder to maintain those closer distances due to the changes of max speeds, ship sizes,
what you're saying is it's going to require even better pilots.
Exactly. That's what like I said, all the good pilots you have now, they're going to have to relearn with Athena.
Yeah, but that still comes down to
but they're going to suck then.
But that still comes down to a natural ability of a person to think, not necessarily talent points.
Exactly.
So,
but correct me if I'm wrong. The best way to get good is to do it and practice.
Yeah, there's no in-game mechanic that's going to make you a good.
But right now, that's a very expensive way. It's very expensive.
It's not. You can do it with a cheap ass ship. You don't have to be involved in a fight. That's where the community needs to come together around PvP and stop looking at it as a cancer in the game. It's going to require people to group up. It's not a solo effort. You're going to have to get with people that have a little bit of concept of how it works, and then you learn from them. Get with your org mates. Go out in safe space and practice tackling the ship. You're not being able to use the weapons, but learn how to chase a ship. Learn how to maintain that distance and how to do it effectively. Then take your butt out into PvP space and kick ass. That's the only way it works.
And don't take an expensive ship out if you don't know how to PvP.
Yeah, take a trainer out, man.
Guys, hold on one second. So what I'm hearing in all this argument is coming down to the same thing. You don't need talent points to be a good PvPer.
You don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, keep it clear, keep it concise. We don't need a lot of explanation on this one. The
You don't need an
talent,
expensive ship either.
the talent points, while they help in some regard, they do not make or break a PvPer. A person who has the natural ability to learn and handle a ship and be able to compensate mentally for the things they need to do are always going to have an advantage. The talent points at that point are irrelevant. So wiping the talent points or not wiping the talent points really is not going to give PvPers any advantage that they don't already have.
I think also the community's got to have a want to do PvP, and when there's people that do want to do it, not enough the community wants to do it, so there's never going to be a drive for PvP in this game.
I think honestly a wipe would help that, and the reason why I'm saying that is if there was a wipe, you wouldn't have these massive established PvP orgs. You would have everybody starting off at the same point, moving out there into PvP space with smaller ships and starting to build up again in a natural progression with the current mechanics.
There is one
Short-term one-time fix, though, right? Like that's only going to help get some new people into PvP at launch.
It's going to help create more diversity in the PvP groups. I think it's what's going to happen.
It goes back to the argument that the discussion we were having about, there will always be a talent point discrepancy in the game from people who started early to people who started last week. You can't get around that, and the only way to get around that is for you personally to wait for your talent points to accrue in those particular talents until you're up to the level that you feel as though you are being effective. And in the meantime, you can still crew, you can still learn your pilot skills, you can still be a repair engineer on those ships, learning the PvP in its broad sense and still contribute while you're waiting for those to come up.
The only aspect of talent points that will have one advantage of one pilot over another is the actual the talent points that apply to space engines and the maneuvering abilities. That's
where we start.
That's going to make a difference, right? That's why I lean on the whole thing. If you're going to do a wipe everything. Quanta points, everything in the game start completely fresh. Nobody owns jack shit. You're given the ability to start the game on Haven with the new user.
Okay, let's go into that then. Okay, so one of the things we need to talk about is the new startup system, the new player experience. That's a major change. I actually really like that. It was a lot of fun. That was part of what made me actually kind of start thinking, a wipe might actually be good, because I like the concept of that. Because I'm going into this with all of my knowledge and experience in the game, and they're like, oh, here's a structure, here's an escape pod, here's a starter ship. And my brain's like, ooh, what can I build with that?
Exactly.
It's like all of a sudden it's a whole different animal, and I'm like, challenge, yeah, let's roll with it.
Right.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the PTS we had on that. I've got two characters, and I rolled each of them in a different way. One of them I rolled as a beta. I've got all my knowledge. How do I run that new player experience efficiently to get to what I need to? So for a territory unit, for a territory scanner, for a basic ship that I can get out into space and actually use those.
Okay,
things.
so question for
people. And then I rolled the other one. I rolled the other one as wiped my brain as well, in effect, as best I could, and played the new player experience as NQ tried to anticipate a completely fresh player to DU. And both of them were a fantastic experience. I love both of them. And it was actually a very good new player tutorial experience that I had, especially compared to the one that we had back at the beginning of beta.
Awkward silence.
Let's go.
My only problem with skill points, and this is not about wipe or not wipe. This is with the current, and if it stays this way, my only problem with the skill point system in place is the sheer amount of time that it takes to train in certain things. They need to add elements of the game that can increase it for short amount of times for completing a certain task or something to that effect. But some of these skills, taking
waiting is not a valid way to increase your effectiveness in the game. It should be merit based, but the biggest problem is there are so many talents that the level of coding required for that would be.
But not for individual task. I'm not saying do an individual task to accelerate one specific skill. do something that gives you a little bit better pool of points than say the tutorials do. The tutorials are for the new players to get you a start and give you a feeling of accomplishment. Yeah, we're going to give you 5,000 skill points. We all know how far 5,000 skill points go. They go once you get everything past level 1, they go no fucking.
Basically nothing.
So give something in game that awards 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, but not something that's repetitive on a daily basis or multiple times a day. Some kind of monthly event that can award players with a pool of points that will help everybody rebuild.
Something with a barrier against abuse, but
Exactly.
with repeatability in some degree.
Exactly.
And actually, while we're on this topic, does anyone think it's kind of weird that the amount of talent points you get for capturing 10 large core ships in one game session only gives you 5 minutes worth of talent points?
Exactly.
Hey guys, real quick, I'm going to do something kind of fun for the viewers. We got 65 people in stream tonight. So if you go to that VR, XVX Castle Fades, you'll be here where we are at the round table. Everybody in stream is welcome. I did just happen to place 4 urinals around the castle. Anybody that finds them, the first person to find each one of the urinals, I'll give you 5 million quanta.
I just watched people get up and run out.
What's the difference? He gets up from the table.
Do you have to urinate in them too?
No, just go to it and stay. When you stand by one, say in chat you found one, and I'll come to you.
Do you have to bring the contents of the urinal?
No, I'm just I'm serious. Find the urinals. I'll give you 5 million quanta. Okay, back to the conversation.
This comes to a wipe.
Bring back the cake.
If they wipe, we all start in Haven. The only way, and I'm bringing PvP back in this, that I see PvP a viable option in this game is the only safe zone we have is around Mad Estates and Elioth. If we're going to start with a wipe, let's get rid of their safe zones because
I disagree with that.
Why give the false sense of security?
There should be one safe zone. It should be around the 3 planets. That's it.
Yeah. Elioth,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Leave that safe zone there. Take the safe zone away from all the other planets.
Yeah, that's
the
what I'm
current
saying.
safe zone we have. You need to have a safe trade area, and Elioth, Thades, and Mattis work well for that.
That's what I'm
Everybody's
saying.
used to it.
But I know it's interesting that you say that. But
That's
the outer planets only have their kind of call it atmospheric safe zones. You know, as soon as you cross that border, you are into PvP space, and the vast majority of this game universe is.
Yeah, but that safe zone goes almost 2 SU out from the planet. It's not as you leave the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's true. But you've got to.
Its atmosphere, you need to be able to be targeted. Once you get into space, when your space engines engage, you should be targetable.
But then you've got the issue of kind of what is your warp-in radius? I mean, do you want to specifically have planets where there is effectively no safe warp-in points?
If you're outside of safe space, it doesn't matter where you drop out of warp, you are targetable.
But the problem with that is,
the
warp-in points for those planets are just going to be camped. And that's going to be exploited.
And it's going to teach you. It's going to bring you into being more creative as to where you warp from, how you leave out.
No,
big PvP orbs will absolutely camp it with all the manpower they have, and there's no amount of creativity.
No,
Take advantage of it.
The simple fact of the distances between planets and the geometry of warping to those distant points is you will always land within a 50 to 100 kilometer radius of a warping point.
Okay,
to
then
Now you got warp beacons for that.
Give it a half SU outside of atmosphere.
But
we
that's
already do that now. Yo, we already do
I-
that now. And if you get rid of the safe zone, I can do it with far less ships. Like we already watch all the space around the planet, and depending on the planet, and if it has moons, it's like 12 ships or 18. Like that's already been done now.
So what you do is you come in from a different trajectory, and then you're not warping into the same thing. You don't go down the pipeline.
No, this is what I'm saying, is that the distances in the geometry do not allow you to move far enough off a warp channel to be able to land a decent distance outside of a warp-in point to a planet. It's simply not possible with the geometry.
We're never supposed to be safe in the first place.
But then not everyone's got access to a warp beacon, so you're still subjecting the majority of the player base.
Yes, but I don't think people will be out there until they're making that stuff.
I think the only way that really makes sense is if we get rid of if they actually finally do atmospheric PvP on the outer planets. Like if there's atmospheric PvP on the outer planets, then yeah, kill the safe zone entirely. But without that, I feel like any kind of like half measure is going to be super weird because like KBLA was saying, I think it was like if they removed the safe zone around the planet so that you could do anything within like a super tight radius around the planet, you could literally just have like one ship on each side of the planet and you're done. You could just kill anyone who shows up.
I'm Napkin Math says like 4 or 6, and currently you can use VR to do that. So you can
Then I
do it all
recommend they
alone.
figure out a way to put stealth technology in here.
I totally agree with that, just in general.
That was brought up is that the Care Bears do fund
please don't,
a
no,
lot of the
no
PvP
camping.
activity. And if you make it so that the Care Bears can't go to outer planets and feel safe anymore, you're going to see a drastic reduction in the number of people willing to fund you.
Exactly.
Yeah, people just won't go to those planets anymore.
But if it's coming with atmospheric PvP later in the game, and we're starting to release, and we're wiping, here's another aspect of the gameplay that's going to be a major change, and is that going to call for a wipe again?
Yeah, I don't. If they don't do atmospheric PvP before release and before wipe, I don't think they ever should. Because like,
I agree.
It's way too big of a meta change deep in the game.
Exactly. Anything they do that makes that big of a change requires another wipe, and we're only going to put up with that so many times.
Yep.
Taylor, back off it.
And how many people would still play if there's never atmospheric PvP coming? I know a lot of PvP orgs are just waiting for that to come back in the game.
I have a question for everybody. How about city cores? Cores that it can help you have like boosts for cities because of levels of activity. So let's say a city has a level of activity of, I don't know, 10 players a day or 100 players a week or whatever. And depending on the points that you generate because of the activity of the city, you can get to invest those points onto buffs that you can give to the citizens of the city.
It's
and those
an
buffs, when you go
interesting
to...
idea, but it is very vulnerable to alt to win.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You just
And
get,
it's-
if
you
you get
pay
people with
for the
that
alts.
Just from a
Alts are
simple,
paid alts.
it's just from
but
the
it's
simple
still
idea
an
of
advantage.
dev
Not
time.
not
You're-
everybody can afford to put 10 players in game. Some people can only afford one account. So it is
Problem with
it is
alt to
still
win
a,
is not that it doesn't
Hey,
support
Pixie.
NQ, it's that it does support NQ, but it doesn't support a healthy community.
exactly.
Hey guys, if
Same
you're in
problem with the
stream,
mission system.
come over to the castle. I'm going to try to get as many people in chairs as we can so we can take a screenshot and send that to NQ as well.
The mission system was great in concept, but it was blown up by people with alts, and I'm not going to sit here and bullshit anybody. I used alts and I got rich off of it. But
It's true. The values for
lot of
both
people-
missions and now Demeter with mining units, they were drastically inflated because they were created to address something.
What were you saying,
The level-
Crazy?
The reason mining levels are high is because people were really worried they weren't going to be able to build anything without hand mining anymore.
Hey, I got
The reason
8
the missions
alts.
were high is because of schematic costs right before that.
I got 8 alts that I pay for, and I do that just so I can run missions. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but they're getting paid for it. So I mean,
yeah, but there again, do I have a problem with doing that? No, because I've done it since the mission system was put in place. But you've got people that play this game that cannot maintain more than one subscription because they don't have the money for that.
But that's the cost of MMOs.
I understand that, but if you look at it from a concept, those are the ones that are going. It's an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
Well,
It is it at its root, it is an unfair advantage.
But
just
it's
like
not something you
me
can
being able to
change.
run. It's like me being able to run 6 computers and put all 6 of my accounts on one PvP ship and slaughter you solo.
Yeah, but
That's
the thing
an
is,
unfair advantage.
that's never going to change. No matter what aspect of the
Yeah.
game it is, if you've got the money to do that, you've got the money to do it. And I hate to say this, I mean, you guys know this. I've gone through some shit. I've been on some very tough times. I can't afford to have more than one account active once this goes live. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and bitch because Crazy Horse has 6 or 8 or 20. If he's got the money to do it, he's earned the right in life to do that. It's his money. He's earned the money. I can't bitch about him doing what he's earned the right to do.
Then again,
There's
also
a caveat to that, in that alt to win only really becomes a problem, starts becoming multiplicative when there's passive income mechanics involved. Back when there was mega node mining, having 20 accounts didn't do shit for you because you could
Exactly.
only use 2 of your hands.
Exactly.
And that's
Now,
I do
now it
like
has
the
a
fact that
now
there's
it has an
AFK
issue.
mechanics, but I think that the fact that they are the most profitable things in the game is the problem. Like
Well-
I want there to be AFK mechanics because I want you to be able to do things where you don't have to be present at all times.
So-
but if it's the most profitable thing in the game, then yeah, I'll just roll up 6 characters and just break in billions like I am right now.
Also, from a technical standpoint, you can't tell the difference between a single account and an internet cafe. I mean, you know, like if you have like say an internet cafe or even a dorm with like 5 or 6 people all playing the same game, they're all coming from the same IP address. You can't really tell the difference. So
Yeah, and NQ have done what they can to try and prevent alt spamming with only allowing one client to run per machine. But there's real world technical workarounds that people can use. So they've done what they can, and if you are quite happy spending a vast majority of your income monthly on however many alts you want to roll, then that's your prerogative. It's how it kind of impacts in the game itself, in kind of specifically how those people with that kind of money can dominate a market sector, or in PvP, can they actually kind of multi-role a fleet and dominate an alien core against another organization. It's those kind of impacts that we've got to try and consider. And as Core was saying, how is that effectively kind of impacting your own gameplay, that you've got so much money that do you really know what you can do with it? Can you even utilize that much money within the game for your own kind of enjoyment?
No, because I forgot. I've lost things to spend money on.
Now, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of at a burnout spot in the game myself. I mean, I don't really have nothing to do.
The thing about alts is that it's nothing. Nobody can do anything. Like, NQ wants people paying for accounts, so I think it's even better for them if a veteran player is like subbing like 10 accounts and that he's a constant player, he's bringing in stuff for the economy, he's building stuff, he's doing stuff, and I don't know what to say about that. Like,
It's not the issue of having or not having alts. My issue is adding more mechanics to the game that makes alt to win even more prominent.
Yeah,
but so what you were saying about the city thing, more people active in the city, that's going to make smaller orgs, people who have money, they're going to create more alts, and that's going to give their city more advantage. So let's not try to get them adding more things that are going to make alt to win more prominent than it already is.
Yeah, I have no problem with supporting NQ by buying multiple accounts. People can still do that, and there are still mechanics in the game that they'll still benefit from, even after the mission nerf. There's still calibration charges, there's still talent points. But that doesn't mean that we should justify adding more game mechanics that will be heavily abused in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Alts will always have some level of advantage. That's unavoidable.
Yep,
but
there's no way around it.
I should not be able to roll up 3 characters and make 3 times the income. That's not okay.
Nope.
And right now, that's what I'm doing.
That's not okay, but goddamn, I'm gonna do it.
It was easy for me to make multiple billion a week running the missions just with 6 accounts, and I did.
I did for like 8 months because I was like, oh well, this is way too OP, and they're definitely going to patch this out, and they didn't, and they didn't, and they didn't, and they didn't, and then eventually I was like, you know what, whatever, fuck it, I'm just going to.
I'm just the opposite. I'm going to use the hell out of it until they nerf it, and I did. Now I have hundreds of expanded XL containers full of shit that's going to get wiped.
But yeah, it goes back to the question is having that much.
They nerfed it. Everything that I did, everything I've invested is about to go bye-bye.
And it raises the question is, having that much stuff, having that much quanta, having that much elements all in storage, what benefit to you in this game has all of that brought over just having a single account?
None whatsoever. Well, there was a plan. The plan did not materialize the way I wanted, and now I've probably, when I tell you I've got about 100 kilotons of voxel, I'm not lying. I have about 100 kilotons of kilotons of just voxel.
Well, I had alts for training different talents because I thought that would matter a lot more than it ended up mattering.
Yeah.
I hear you laugh at that, Serapis, but you remember, you're an organization with a lot of people pulling out of your pool. This was just me.
Yes, this is just me too. It's just everybody else happens to use my build box for some reason. But yeah, this is just me. Everything in my shop came from me.
Well, one thing having an alt did help with, though, is the core count.
Right.
That's about it.
Well, now that's a little bit. I like the way they've changed that. Now it was a big change for me to go in and fix it all. But now, not to lie, I went in and tore down a bunch of my shit.
You know, it actually grates on my nerves to say this, but it's appropriate for people to buy more accounts to get more core count because it's enabling them to use more server resources, so they should be paying.
Yeah.
Gravity would be an entire D&D party by himself. Yord face.
I mean, that's the things they brought into this game that is burning people. Everybody tore down structures because they have to deal with core count now. They just got done doing all that. Now we're going to wipe it anyway, so all that work you did was kind of pointless in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
but
main frustration. It's just how much effort I put into different things and how, if I had known what the wipe was going to look like from the beginning, I would have played differently.
Yeah, and that's just the stuff they do like that's killing the community.
I hate to say this though, but they needed us to play it like we did. They needed us to push big, push hard, do these massive ass things. Because if we hadn't have done all this stuff,
we had to show them what was broke.
Yeah, the game would not be developed to the degree that it is now. If we hadn't have done all this shit. So
yeah, but they could have came out with the core count. Yeah, this is coming in the game, but don't worry, we're wiping anyway, so don't tear your shit down. You know, it's like
Exactly. It's okay
it's
if
like
you need us to behave that way, but just tell us, please.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have spent days tearing down hundreds of structures, finding cores, tearing it down, when in a minute it's going to be gone like that. It's just stuff they do like that burns you.
I never understood people going through their cores and stripping them out because, you know, while they've invested in the core count, they never activated the core abandonment mechanic on the back end of it that would cause people to lose their cores. So there was no reason to kind of strip all of those
but
down.
You couldn't
in the first
deploy
place.
more.
Oh,
if you want deploy more.
Yeah, they said it was coming and that you need to get it under control.
Yeah, when they said that, I was
sometimes
expecting
we
like
just
2
play
months.
the game, right? Wipe or not. Like I get up in the morning, I sit down on my computer. Whether there's a wipe soon or not, I still need to do something for the day. Now am I banging missions right now? No, but I'm still playing the game. I'm still logging in. I'm pretty sure most people in here are logging in some sort of mothball faction, if not just outright. People are still building.
I log in about once or twice a week just for shits and grins. Up until this past Christmas. Up until this past Christmas, I know there's a lot of people in here that's played a lot longer than I have. Since schematics were introduced, I'm medically retired, so I'm home all day, every day. I go nowhere. I do nothing for better than a year. From 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I was in DU. I would get off for a couple hours to eat, and I was back on until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I did it every single day for a year.
Yeah.
We've been doing the PTS sessions, like we've been hitting that a lot more as well. And so like whether the wipe conversation is happening or not, there's still knowledge to be gained there, right, on the PTS right now. Whether or not there's a wipe, there's still going to be a period where they release Athena in the beta and we have to go play the video game.
Hey, Crazy Horse, check your DM for me, please.
You guys touch on something that is very interesting. Like, the fact that you're going to have, like, core limitations when you start the game is going to... It's going to make veteran players play together until they can pull in together their org cores and to build the stuff that they need to build. And mind you, like, that is something very different than what we had on the other wipe. Like, you can build as many cores as you want, but having the skill limitations with the cores now, everybody's starting from zero. Like, I haven't thought of that. Like, you guys have thought of that? Like,
well, you still start from zero. Like, I'll start with 13 accounts. I pay for 13 accounts. I have 130 personal cores right at the beginning of the game. I won't ever hit a core limitation.
Okay, Elon.
Also, hold on. There's a
Elon.
there's a thing to point out here that in alpha and beta, the way we used cores was you started the game and you instantly created an org or 50, and you just worked on org cores. When the game is re-released and we don't freak out and just train into these org talents because it's what we think we need to do, maybe it's better to go with the personal core skill slots, right? Because maybe they take less time, they take less overall talent points. So instead of going to an org and having this big pool of org stuff, it'll all be personal.
Personally, because of XPX, I'll be putting everything into org. I'm going to be paying for 3 accounts, and 2 of those accounts are going to start off. My alt accounts are going to be starting off with those org skills right away to support the group. But at the same time, I don't expect all my members to be doing the same thing.
Well, I don't know. Well, okay, this is a serious question, Serapis. It's day 1. Do you really think it's effective for any characters you create to start training for cores?
From my perspective of gameplay, that I'm always
yes.
I'm a leadership role, and also the fact that I'm a builder. Yes.
Yeah, but you could start training them on day 4, and then also have given yourself.
But that's on my
press play
alts.
button for industry on this one, the buffs for Atmo engines on this one, and the buffs for Atmo brakes on that one, or whatever.
The fact that we start with a buffer of 10 on each is going to bring us a pretty long way for that whole first week.
Yeah, but I know, yes, I see what you're saying, Serapis. Yes, you need to have this org thing. But I think just going out the door and going straight to it, I think there's a better path, at least for the first somewhat hour, because if you just train one skill right to level 3, it might take the same amount of time to train 20 skills to level 2.
It's really going to be a case of personal choice of what everybody actually plans to do.
Yeah.
Now, at some point, they're going to announce that they're going to wipe, if they are going to wipe. And at that point, myself and my org mate will sit down and have a conversation about making a plan of what to do when the server goes live. In the same way that we sat down and we made a plan when they were bringing in the mining units. So we sat down and had an hour-long conversation about, right, what's our plan, what we're doing, what's the best way to progress this forward. And we hit the ground running, and we hit the ground running hard.
And those conversations are definitely already happening. I know they certainly are in my own organisation.
People are already building ships. They're like, well, Drax is literally
I'm doing one right now.
Drax is literally
As we're talking.
if we can bring blueprints, I'm just gonna build a whole fleet of ships.
I've been having
to think. I know those first
in
those first days, core count is not going to be your main concern, because you're going to be putting down 1 or 2 ships. You're going to be putting down a single static to get to bootstrap your first month of gameplay.
Yeah,
after that,
particularly because
gonna
you
be
can't
race
build a small
driven.
core off the bat. You're going to be stuck with all these excess cores that you can't all move at the same time. You're going to want to keep it minimal.
yeah, and so it's in that first week you're going to be focusing on what you can bootstrap rather than expanding your ownership.
I would probably follow the same gameplay that I followed when I first started. I spent my first month and a half, 2 months on Sanctuary, just jacking around, building and tearing down, learning the mechanics of the game. I did very little talking, very little asking. I'm one of those, I got to learn it on my own. I take hints that I picked up in chat, but like I said, my first 2 months, I hardly talked to anybody. I think I was in the game for 2 months before I even asked in help chat or general chat how to do something, because I couldn't figure it out.
And that brings me to the answer to the question, what are we supposed to do if they're going to wipe and we feel like everything's pointless? Well, there's one obvious answer, and that's that we can sharpen our skills, not our talent points. I'm talking about real skills, our ability to build, our ability to pilot.
Yeah, your
the
actual
various
player
things that we
skills.
do in the game that we're good at, we can get better at before the launch, and we'll be sharp as a razor when it actually comes out.
And also, I hate to say this, but we are testers. And if we want this game to be good, we need to be testing it. Otherwise, between now and release, when they do wipe, all the shit they're releasing with Athena is not going to be proven. We're going to be hitting full release or taking longer to hit full release if we don't get our butts in gear and test this crap.
Oh yeah, we got to break it at least 10 times before we know it's worth shit.
Yeah, hopefully those people will do it, because I know me personally, I'm probably out until they announce the wipe stuff.
okay, this is side combo, but we were just talking about this. Tinfoil hat moment. Weren't there packages where they gave players territory units? So post launch wipe, are they going to give players territory units?
Now, this is one of the conversations we've been having in kind of our post-launch strategy is what is going to be seeded. In what we saw on the PTS wipe last weekend, they had very minimal basic elements. They only had an assembler M. All the other basic industry units were not seeded, and they only had, I think it was M-sized flight elements as well. So you're fairly restricted on your early game dynamics.
But I think there was like it wasn't like a market seeding thing. I mean, like when you're supposed to get your little level 2 cat or your level 5 cat or pet, like on that same little thing was a free territory unit or two. Like, and so like if I'm a veteran player and I want anything to do with Haven, I walk in the shuttle, go over to Alioth, log in, do the tutorial, and I can buy a tile.
Sure, but you're stuck with that one tile for a while because it takes a significant amount of effort, at least for the first couple of days, to build up to building more territory units, and you still don't know what's going to be on the tile or how to scan it. So how big of an advantage is it?
Well, I mean, I just,
the market doesn't need to be seeded with anything other than the schematics. If they leave schematics in play the way they are, they don't need to seed anything. No ore, nothing.
Yeah,
just schematics.
That's what I was going to say. That brings up another topic. If they do a wipe, and when they do a wipe and they release, should they even have bots out there? Do we want bots?
No, I want no fucking ore bots. Keep the ore
bots good for the game.
Gone. No.
Ore bots, element bots, anything. So a player can come in, if they have enough quanta or pool their quanta, they can build a ship. Should that even be a thing, or should you have to build it?
No, without at least T1 ore bots, without T1 ore bots, you cannot bootstrap the economy.
Kind of.
Simple as that.
There is money coming into the game
We have
through
people in the
daily
holding
logging
tank.
bonus. I know it's not that much. But there's also missions which you can run on Aliath to Aliath. So there are ways to inject money into the game, as is even with the changes in Athena so far.
On a wipe, are we still going to get our login bonus? Because that login bonus is beta only.
Well, not
so
maybe
when they,
not temporary.
Not temporary. Yeah, it was supposed to be temporary during beta. So if it's eliminated, that goes away.
Yeah, so then it becomes the only way to bootstrap the economy would be foot running missions, and that is just going to be such a grind. You can imagine how many people are going to be turned off by that.
I can see them adding stuff like that at the beginning of the launch, just to start up the economy and get things going. But
hey guys, real quick, one thing. I want to do something nice for the viewers real quick that are hanging out tonight. Exclamation mark raffle. When you guys see it in chat, that's 20 million quanta. We got 70 people in stream.
Nice.
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 Yeah, resource.
Here's a thought for that initial injection that people need to just start getting going. There are the VR challenges. People are going to have to go through the tutorials. Some people are going to go through the challenge things anyway to try and get those talent point chunks that they can. That should help enough to get people started and out there, even if it's not going to be a repeatable hardcore grind kind of method.
Yeah, I
mean, my point.
Do we really want a player-made economy? Like, we have to. This is a for real question. Do we really want no bots? Like, straight up.
Yes.
There's no bots whatsoever.
Yes.
They don't buy anything. They don't sell anything.
Yes.
So why? Why?
Straight up no bots.
Yes. Because that works.
Because,
it works.
Because
I'm telling you, it works.
When beta launched, New Genesis, I don't know if you were around in that time, New Genesis had an entire crew that ground their way to warp drives as fast as possible, went and got T5 ore, sold it to the bots, and were able to buy tons and tons and tons of crap off of the from the bots that because the bots were selling everything. So they had bots selling everything, bots buying everything. Legit, if this is truly a player experience, it needs to be a player economy from start to finish.
I agree that yes, the T5 bots and the complete market seeding at the beginning of beta created a lot of problems. And I'm going to hold my hand up and say I was one of those that janked off to Simeon very early on and was not really the cause of some people's wallets being reset. Let's not talk about that. But if you do not have a stable point within an economy, you're going to have a problem that we saw in beta of collapsing value as people just dump stuff on the market. If you have the excess that we have, that we can see with the mining units in just pure ore, let alone element excess, value is just going to fall through the floor, and you're just going to bottom the economy within a very short period of time. If you do not have something in that economy which is a fixed baseline.
Actually, there's a way around that, and they did this in Star Wars Galaxy, where you were able to set up a vendor and put stuff up for sale in your own building, and then you were able to turn on that vendor, broadcast this out into the global market. So if I wanted to go buy a widget, I would go and say, oh, here's 15 sellers of this widget. That's the cheapest, but my travel time is not worth getting that discount. I'll buy it from the guy next door to me at a much higher price because it's convenient.
That's fine, and you've got that in this game as well. But the
you don't have player run markets.
Yeah, we
at all.
do.
Well, you do. You have dispenser markets. It's just visibility. You have top marks.
It's player run vendors. It's not a player run market because the vendors are not broadcasted on the market.
But the issue I was trying to get to is that because you have mining units that do not have a fixed value of, you don't spend a certain amount of quanta to get a certain amount of ore back. There is a disconnect between raw material value and finished element value that is constantly floating. And if you do not have a fixed point price within an economy somewhere, at some point that economy is going to bottom out, because people will always try and undercut the next person in the market in order to get their product sold, which means you get the 0.0 reductions in market every single day for people trying to get their product sold, and it slowly pushes finished element price below market ore price or perceived market ore price, and it just spirals, and you just get the continual descent of value as people trying to get their stuff sold, and it just doesn't stop. So you need a fixed point value within an economy somewhere. It can just be a single thing that is used broadly within that economy to stabilize the value point across the rest of the economy.
Well, look at the EVE Online economy. It doesn't have fixed prices at all, and the prices are very stable.
Let me just say something. I've been trying to say something for a while. The thing is, you have to balance out the sinks and the faucets of Quanta. Like, Quanta is the means of trading. Like, there's no way around it. You need currency in order to trade. And if you balance it, like, you get daily rewards, I don't think that's enough. I think they should have other facets of Quanta besides the missions, even. And other games have like PvE, so you do PvE and you get rewards in currency, but they need to have something here in this game if you are gonna go botless. And then you balance out the resource generated, like you have your dashboard where the resource that you get generated, people mining or people building. You can balance out the rewards of the missions because with that, and then you just turn the sink in, because if you have territories, you will need to pay in Quanta. Because you need taxes. Blueprints are going to be in taxes. Blueprints are going to be in Quanta that you need to pay. And there's upkeep. Like every time a ship destroys itself or whatever, then you have to use scrap. And how do you buy the scraps if not in the market? Like, you're not making the scrap. Even though if you make it, like, you need to buy the minerals in order to make the scrap or mine it. So the economy gets complex.
yes, but it's doable without the bots.
It is.
What NQ needs to address is how do you put Quanta in without diluting Quanta? That is what's happening right now. Like, people are just making such absurd amount of Quanta.
That's all from missions.
They don't really need. They don't really need Quanta anymore. Like, what
And
I
actually-
do with all this Quanta?
and that's the perfect
I have
example of when missions came in. The massive inflation that happened on the market was simply because the amount of money coming out of missions artificially increased the amount of available quantum moving through the system. Now, in response to Warforge's point, Eve does have a balance point in its plex. A plex has a kind of a time value, which then people apply to their game time. So, you put in a certain amount of hours, you can get a certain amount of. It corresponds to a certain amount of plex.
Yeah.
That plex has a fixed value, well, not a fixed value, a relatively variable value on the
Yes.
market, which then translates to all the other things that are on the market. So,
Mind you, we're going to have the same here with Dax.
Yeah, will
With
Dax
Dax.
do that?
Now, remember, we also you gotta remember the mission system is changed drastically.
Yes, and it's a good change because now you can't near as much money. In fact,
Yeah.
it made missions irrelevant in like affiliate missions, which is good because player missions should be the only source for missions. That was what originally was intended. Now, regarding the bots, I think that is a good price point for which of the 25 just for T1 is good for a price point to potentially keep values of items together as well as DAX in the future, because people will think, oh, let's place down 100 tiles and we'll make, because you got to remember, if you look at the math behind ore generation for T1 mining units, it's like 2 to 3 mil a tile that you're making, depending on how you're set up. Even if you're paying for calibration charges, like I do for my setup, and it's like I think there's a pretty good setup with like a pretty good economy flow or faucet from the mining units, and I think the economy is good just with the mining unit. Just with the ore prices from the T1 mining units, I think there's a pretty good income, and player missions should be based off of that. Industry should be based off of that, as well as essentially PvP time invested and people committing their stuff. All that should be cost based off of the ore that comes off the ground.
I've got an
There's like a discussion going on in the chat. Hold on one sec. It's like, and
Yeah,
it's
there
been
is.
pointed out. It's like basically goes in tandem with what we've been talking about. Is like, okay, so in the functioning economy, we all imagine a system where elements are there's a cycle of life, a circle of life for elements, which doesn't exist except for in PvP currently, and in rare cases in PvP. So, like, it's not that we're ignoring chat, but it's just part of it, right? So like now we talk
Yes.
about like, so if there's like a staple with the bots, right? Like, and someone brought this up, why couldn't the bots just buy elements, right? Like, that's an option too. But okay, so if we do have bots around, then how do we get a flow of elements?
So
they need to reintroduce PvE element damage. It's the only thing that will get
Exactly.
a decent flow of elements through the economy. at the moment.
Without a massive amount of PvP going on, elements are not going to get destroyed. So
Does anybody else here remember tree collision?
Can I say one thing? Nobody take offense to this, but
Oh,
you
man.
guys don't take offense to this. But if you guys talking about element destruction, you shut your whore mouths.
No, I just want to interject. I just want to interject something. Sorry, I've been waiting, but with somebody who doesn't do factory like me, I can do it, but I really hate factory because I'm very OCD about game, and if I get a factory going, it's gonna be hell for me. It won't make the game fun.
As is most of us.
Yeah. So how do you, if without the tier 1 ore bots, how do you keep ore prices from sinking so far below an element cost? So if I were to sell, like me, I have lots of ore because that's what I do. I sell it, and that's how I make my money to go buy elements.
Yeah.
I have an
How do you keep that from being so somebody's only paying me 10 quanta
At
per
a
liter
minimum
of
in the
coal.
market.
I think
No,
Jake had
I
an
have an
answer.
answer.
Okay.
What's up, Jake?
And I've been waiting for a chance to jump in and mention this. So, this one thing could potentially solve all of the problems of the economy. For one, yes, eliminate the bots completely. Let it be a 100% player-controlled economy. And two, limit the total amount of quanta that can be had in the game, so that we're not creating quanta every time we make a transaction. This will automatically, by limiting the amount of total quanta in the game as one big pool amongst all the players, this will automatically force the economy to adjust according to the value of that limited quanta.
I have
Okay, so
I have
there-
a problem.
And that one
There-
big problem
there-
is, what if people hoard the quanta and quit the game?
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's what
See?
I've seen in other
Okay,
MMOs where they
yes.
hoard the items and rarities, and then all of a
That does
sudden they're
happen.
discontinued because they quit, and so those prices go up because there's less of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but regardless, the economy will still stabilize because you still have a finite amount of credits to trade for a finite amount of
but
goods.
over years, that economy gets smaller and smaller and smaller as people quit the game with all that stuff hoarded away and no way to get it back out.
I mean, I would personally suggest exempting people who have inactive accounts. If your account goes inactive, that money gets added back into the pool.
But
If you
Okay.
reactivate,
okay, then and with that, what happens when they come back?
So I have a
If you
family
stop inserting
emergency
new
or
money until
so,
they
so I have a life
until the numbers
situation
back
that I have a life situation that takes me away from the game for 3 months and my sub drops. I lose everything I have? No.
I don't think that should be
No,
the
what
case.
I'm saying is, you take it out of the pool for that maximum. So say there's 10 billion quanta available in the game. You had 100 million. You deactivate. We add that 100 million back into the available pool. When you log back in,
Yeah.
we are now above that 10 billion, and we stop adding new quanta until enough has fauceted out that it makes up for the.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I have a
the
counterpoint to
balance
that
of
though.
the
What about
economy.
those that keep their subs but aren't playing it, but are basically have quit the game? Because I myself am guilty of this. I have a few MMOs where I still have paid for years of subscription, but I do not play the game, and I have rare items that are discontinued, and I will not
No.
sell them, so they're not in the game, but they're there.
I'm going to
So-
jump in and say kind of real world studies of fixed value economies like you're suggesting have every single scenario has come up against that problem of trapped value.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it
not Bitcoin, big example.
It always ends disastrously in that particular case.
I don't
because
see it as being
the
a-
amount of trapped value always ends up building, and you end up with an economy that just kind of circulates smaller and smaller and smaller, and it just kills itself.
You look at Bitcoin, it's like they used to be like $1 a coin, and now they're $60,000 a coin. You run into that thing where one Bitcoin is worth way more than it was back in the day, and it's like while the economy, but then you have a thing with
You
Bitcoin
still
where you can
look at
actually trade the
fractions.
the fractions where it actually adjusts. So that model works, but
Well, I mean, in this case, we could have some sort of variance on it. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be
the
strictly
problem-
a maximum. It could be a maximum that fluctuates based on market activity.
Yeah, the problem you're gonna
if the
have
market
is-
activity shrinks too much, you increase the maximum to compensate, or something like
then
that. Like,
and then you look
I
at
think
the
Carzarius has a much more accurate view of what I was getting at.
The problem you're going to have is with any type of fixed or dynamically fixed economy in this type of a game is the goal for this game is to have a very large player base. They are looking for an Eve style player base. And to even try to dynamically or have a fluid value of a fixed economy or fixed quanta value in the economy is going to be, one, difficult to do, and two, tedious to do because of the amount of variables that are implied in that situation. And if you plan on having any kind of real player growth, that in itself could actually stymie that player growth and cause a choke point for new players. Because if you have a bunch of players that are in the game that have eaten up that, to such a degree that even minor adjustments, and you have a large player influx due to advertising and marketing campaigns, it's going to choke the economy.
Well, I mean, then you could have it be proportional to the player count. Like, I mean, yes, there's a lot of checks and balances. You'd have to have a lot of variables. But to me, what I see as the serious pro of this idea that you pitched, is that it does drive the economy towards a player-driven economy. Because once the money is in place,
I get that, but you're also talking about something that somebody has to do.
True, someone has to design it, but
So-
in the end, it could potentially, theoretically, at
So-
least, be let loose to run.
So here's something that is interesting to me. While all these economical balance ideas are very important, I think there's a lot of other subjects we could discuss. And one of those is, and I've been a big proponent of this in the DU Discord and other Discords, PvP. PvP is absolutely the one of the couple big foundations this big game is built of. And devs completely side shifting from PvP for the sorry about the dev smashing, but them going from not PvP focused to finally having a PvP focus with Athena is like, I think that is finally gonna save the game a little bit, because it's like when we get to release and they have some chaos and they have some people going around and maybe there's less safe zones in release, that would be excellent. That would drive a lot more conflict and a lot more economical sinks and faucets and stuff, because people will try and think like, hey, if it's just Alioth that's safe and Mattis and Thades are now not safe, why don't we go? But I think we just need the PvP focus to be restored, and I think Athena's doing an excellent job bringing PvP focus back to the game, because that's what it needs. It needs people coming, bringing action, and actually doing some cool shit, and not just sit around factories mining against all that. So yeah.
Hold on 1 second, guys. I got to pick. Some guy, you won 20 million Quanta. I'll send that over to you. We're going to do one more of those, guys.
Congratulations, whoever won.
When I first jumped into the stream, was listening to everybody. I'm not sure who said it. Doesn't matter. I heard the comment that this game doesn't need PvP. I really, really disagree with that. Any game like this, some element of PvP is required to drive the market and to drive the player base, because you're only appealing the game to a certain amount of people if you leave it as just strictly we just build and fly.
However, it can be applied in the reverse. It's only appealing to PvP for certain people as well.
Right. Yeah. So you're bringing in two elements by having both elements of the game.
PvE. Where's that?
Before we flip back over to PvP,
we need a PvE element just as much as PvP, which we don't have that. We need an enemy AI that we can go out and kill. That'll help people learn the PvP aspects, because you can take
that
controls from that.
Yeah, but they have point blank said there will never be a PvE element in the game. And I think unless the game itself is actually sold out to a different set of developers or a new company, that will never happen.
Right. I did hear that same thing, so yeah.
Even if they gave us like a tutorial thing that we could do that had more in-depth PvP, like more in-depth PvP tutorials,
I mean,
that'd be cool. That would help.
the FTU. Sorry to interrupt. The FTUE actually has some really good covering of which weapons do what, which is excellent. And it actually gives you a tutorial on how to use the gunner seat now. I'm not sure if that tutorial has been in there for a while.
That PvP tutorial was there before.
In beta, there was a thing where you would fly out to I can't remember what it was, but you fly out to a certain point, and then that would be PvP space. It would be nice if there was some limited engagement areas where people could go in PvP without having to worry about the pirates rolling in and blapping them off the face of the planet.
Well, I mean, PvP space is pretty big, and like if you get a couple buddies, you can go into PvP space right near the safe zone edge and play all day. And if someone did show up randomly or whatever, you just fly in the safe zone. Like, you can do that now. And you don't need a bunch of 100 million ships. You buy cheap ships and go out with your buddies and just start.
Yeah, but I'm scared of that KBLA guy.
Is the waiting time. The logistics. How long does it take to get out to an asteroid? How much time do you have to wait before someone maybe shows up? I think what would really help PvP the most in this game that is being partially implemented in Athena is to provide direction for PvPers. This is where it's supposed to happen. This is your reward.
It would be nice if there was a mechanic within PvE space where people could duel without having to worry about other people jumping in.
Who just said guys multiple times? Chig, what were you going to say?
I've been trying to jump in. I mean, we had a very sudden clean break away from economy straight back to PvP again.
Yep.
And I've been trying this whole time to acknowledge somebody in chat who brought up a very good point about economy.
Do it.
Phenomic mentioned in chat that we need some way for players to gain a decent amount of quanta. Well, what he said something about when new players come in the game and they're given an amount of quanta that because of the way the economy moves, it could be worth more or less, or that quanta can hold more weight than perhaps a new player months before had,
Yeah, I think that was in relation to what you were talking about.
Yeah,
in
it was, and I
the
was
fixed
trying to
value,
respond to him, and we got way off track. We just made a clean jump away from.
Yeah.
So going forward, as we have these conversations, if we want to change the subject, let's give each other the courtesy of before doing that, just asking the question if everybody's ready to move on to a new topic.
That's my bad. I apologize.
I think one of the things with the economy we're going to have to realize going into the new game once it's fully released, whether there's a wipe or not, is we need to let go of that mental value that we have personally placed on quanta based on the game as it has been, because we're basing a value on quanta in a system that's been extremely exploited. And that system will no longer be there. So even if we're setting on 20 billion quanta, I mean, right now 20 billion quanta is a lot of quanta, but after full release, it's going to be worth a lot more.
Yeah.
And we have to
no one should be
that.
holding on to that amount of quanta at release.
But you see what I'm saying is that value, we're looking at a system right now that has seen major inflation. And with a full release, when they do a full wipe, it's going to fix that inflation. And the value of the individual quanta is going to jump drastically.
But even with that, you're going to have a set group of people that are going to, I'm not going to say exploit. You're going to have people control the markets, even if you set bots in for T1.
That's part of economy.
There's people going to undercut that all the time. So it's more of a patience game when you're playing with the markets. People are always going to undercut. So placing any value on that from the beginning is futile at best. It's going to have to be something that's derived over time. It's going to suck in the beginning. It will level itself out. That's my argument against bots from the very beginning. You don't have to pay anything to get your ore to start with. You run around and scoop it up off the ground. You put your mining units out. You pay for your tile. It costs you very minimal. People are going to flood the markets with T1, and they're either going to undercut the bot prices or they're going to oversell the bot prices. But you're still going to have the bots in there, so people are still going to have that money grab from the bots. But you get what I'm getting at?
Brings me to one more economical point, which is that certain items in the game as is, such as schematics, and also the taxes you pay for your territory tiles, are fixed. They don't fluctuate with the economy, and that's fundamentally flawed.
Exactly.
Well, the plan is to get rid of the schematics by the sounds of it.
That is, Vela is actually correct. They will be getting rid of schematics most likely upon release.
I toyed with the idea, and I designed a replacement system for schematics where you accrue schematics by collecting research samples instead as an active grind. It's kind of the thing that we've been missing ever since Meganodes disappeared. Everything became passive.
Yeah.
With this new system, schematics would still gate industry, so you wouldn't have people building a warp beacon on the 7th day. But it would be up to individual players to progress through a research tree to be able to enable it.
So, we look at another game called Starbase, and they did a similar thing with that. It was very easy to get through, and I think we should steer away from that idea. Instead, I like the research samples, but instead of just actively accruing them, we should instead, because people won't be able to play all the time unless they have mountains of time. So what I'm thinking is we have you place down you don't have any requirements to place down a refiner and you refine the resources, you get research points. And then the more research points you get, the more you can unlock, the longer the thing goes and the more you put into it. So it is dependent on how much you can put into the system and how much you want out.
For a single player game. However, in a multiplayer and MMO environment, there's going to be people who abuse that system by putting all of their wealth and effort and everyone else they can find into generating those points instead of building ships.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys
I have
are.
a question on that regard. Like we had Friday Witch with vast amount of money, and she just decided to buy a whole planet, like a whole
moon. Yep.
Yeah, and it got me thinking. Like we've been talking about the future of DU post launch, wipe or not. It begs to ask, like, what happens if there's the possibility, because it already happened in the game, that someone could buy such a big amount of territory. This was one individual, but taking account that you can do it with an organization that is very well financed, let's say that.
So
we took it before.
What would happen then? What would be the limiter? What would be the reaction of NQ if something like this happens? Like they weren't like I wasn't expecting never that Friday Witch could or anybody could buy a whole planet. Like I thought that was out of the reach of anybody.
Considering that the schematic fire style happened and some individuals took advantage of that with lots of some people, I've heard numbers beyond hundreds of billions. Like it is very possible that an org could go and do that. And I like the idea of dynamic territory prices, but I think it should be multiplied or divided based on the planet you're on. Like let's say Alioth, much cheaper. Mattis, a little bit more expensive. Simeon or Ion, very expensive.
I think it should be dynamic based on the planet, based on how many tiles are claimed and what the market is like on that planet. If you've got a planet where only like 0.1% of tiles have been claimed and there's no activity on the market, territory tax should be nil.
The
right?
only I would add to that is make it market wide rather than the market of that planet, because that's highly subject to abuse, especially on planets people don't like to put items.
Okay, I hate to say this, but
that's a fair point.
Tonight, guys, hold on 1 second. I hate to say this, but we've touched on a lot of subjects tonight, a lot of topics. Yeah. And this theme for every topic we have hit on has been basically requiring additional development in the game. And we need to realize something that's kind of difficult for us to grasp at this moment from a player perspective. They're on a time crunch. They have investors breathing down their necks. They have a large player base that is not paying for the game monthly. And they have an employment pool of people that they're trying to pay every month, plus server costs. They need this game to release, and they need this game to release quickly.
I think all of us here do appreciate that, actually.
I know we appreciate it, but I don't think we understand the concept of what it means to them.
But we also need
to. If you want something
yeah, but
change,
you have to.
Some work has to be done. There's no way around it.
Yeah,
I agree that right now is a good time
there's
to
something-
implement things. Not implement, but at least give them the prospects of it. But to expect it in a timely fashion, expect them to
But
do it or take time to do it.
That brings us back to the wipe situation. If they're looking to do all this and release by end of the year and do a wipe, but yet we're trying to give them all these other coding and development changes, they'll have to be another wipe.
Yeah, some people think it's like a couple months to release, not end of the year.
Yeah, there's no way with a lot of the changes that we're talking about them making, with the changes of how the economy is regulated dynamically or player based, or whether the changes vary, whether the prices vary on tiles based on planet and its resources, or how many are actually taken on that planet. Those are major changes in the end, that if they do a wipe on release and don't make those changes, then there will have to be another wipe.
Oh, we still have
that I wanted to make with the Friday Witch thing is that it's not that if it's possible or not. She proved that is totally possible. Is that if they don't address stuff like that, if they don't address that happening, it's going to happen. It's not a question if it can happen. It's a question when will it happen.
Yep.
And I don't
Well,
think
what
that's going to
the-
help a game.
Shouldn't they be able to
It's
do
not
that,
gonna-
Joe?
Yeah, they should. If they have the money and resources to do that, they should be able to claim an entire planet.
She proved it could be done, and she did it.
Why should there
and
be a
her
limitation? Why should there be a limitation on how many tiles one specific person or an organization can own?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make tiles more expensive, the more you claim, then that's fine with me. But limiting how many tiles you have flat out is just no.
Yeah.
But the point I did want to make on NQ's development power is number one, you have to realize that they're on a completely different game engine than most other game engines. They actually took a physics manipulation engine or engineering. I don't know the specifics of it. Someone can correct me, but it is not a game development engine, so they had to do a lot of work around that. And number two, while they do have investors of probably a couple of million euros, I don't know the specifics, but they have 20 million euros that were originally pledged by backers, mostly, if I recall.
If I remember correctly, currently their funding from investors is in the $20 to $30 million range.
Okay, then I was mistaken because I thought it was mostly the players that invested.
It's mostly investors right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the correction, but still, it's like players are. I get the argument of they are on a time crunch, but I still think if they want this game to sell, they need to listen to their player base.
I get that,
And
but
I'm
at
not
the
bashing
same
with
time, from a financial point of view, they already have the hours and budget planned out to hit the course points that they need to hit within the budget constraints they have. It's not necessarily a time crunch in regards to, oh my God, we have to get this done. It's more of a system to where we knew from the beginning with our investors and our player base that were playing, this is what our budget was.
This has to be ready.
And this has to be done in this order, in this sequence, to make the most efficient use of the money we have before we get to release.
I think someone said it before. They have a whiteboard in their thing, and they're following that whiteboard religiously.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, any new type of ideas that are come out, yes, it might be a great idea, and it's not something we can expect before launch, but it doesn't hurt to, submit those things and have them look at it, get feedback on it, and it's something that enough people will say, yeah, that's awesome, let's do that, then they might look at that in the long run and just actually give it a shot.
And it's up to them to weigh whether it's a game-breaking addition, because, like I said, anything they do past wipe, they can't put us in another position of needing another wipe, like changing how tiles are purchased, how much they're
Okay, guys,
purchased.
hold on one
because it's
second. Sudsy, you won 20 million Quanta, and that is our 10-minute mark, guys. We got 10 minutes left before we close.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to kind of,
with all of those restrictions and limitations to what we should propose.
Sudsy, what's your in-game name?
The options of proposing ideas that cost almost no effort at all, or to accept what we have, or revert to something we already had. I mean, we're here to suggest improvements to the game and how things could be handled, but any changes will require coding work.
Yeah, and it's that's the last time we had a DUT that was successful was in regards to the core changes, and we ended up bringing a proposal to them that worked within the constraints of the system they had already developed that allowed us what we felt would be a viable option to make things work, and it went well. They took it, they ran with it.
That essentially boiled down to a value change, right?
Yes, but it was something that was a middle ground between the players and what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
In that case, do you recommend that we focus our efforts on solutions that are just value changes? We could narrow it down and try to find solutions based on that limitation.
Well, the problem is with this scenario, there is no value changes that can actually, we're talking about a wipe. That's not something you can really adjust the values. You can adjust what is being wiped or not being wiped, but it's all different aspects of programming and coding. Everything that we ask to keep, requires a different type of interaction with the server and a different type of script setup.
We can adjust the toggles within the scenarios that they defined. Like
Yeah.
they talked about wiping what? Talents, schematics, everything, the entire universe. Like
the one thing the one thing they cannot wipe is blueprints. Like the information regarding the blueprints and what they require. The actual stuff in the game that's physically there, like if they can say, they will save the blueprints for those. But the one thing they cannot do is wipe the what made that blueprint.
I got a question about the blueprints. Is it, and this is just something I've been just talking with my arguments about, is it blueprints as core blueprints are only going to be kept, or is it blueprints even the one-time use blueprints will be kept?
There's no detail on it.
I think they will go based off of the original DRM creator.
So if I have a bunch of blueprints in my character before the wipe, and I'm not the creator, they're just going to disappear.
Good question.
We don't know.
Yeah, that is
no
a
speculation.
question.
And also, guys, you got to keep in mind these streams. They watch these streams
because I mean, and this is my personal view. I said a few times, I'm not a builder, so I get my ships from other people. And if I love a ship right now, I've already contacted one builder who's not going to play anymore, and he gave me a free BP. But I am not the creator. And the only way I could be the creator is by asking him to come back on, release DRM, transferring that whole ship to a new core. But he's already unsubscribed and quit the game.
Yeah, there's going to be other shipbuilders that you can.
I get that. But if after the wipe, if I ever want that ship again and they take that one-time use BP away, I'm screwed.
I think
but
it's a BPs. It's going to be the core BP. I mean, keeping all the copies because there's just so many of them out there. I don't know if they would distinguish a difference between the copies or the cores or what. But
They don't need to distinguish anything. If it's a data object of the type blueprint and it's in your nanopack, it should be ignored by the algorithm. It's that simple.
Yeah,
that's true.
So here's something that I noticed regarding the orgs real quickly. I noticed when they did do the practice wipe for testing the FTUE, I opened my org panel and nothing was there, and that was interesting. And it begs the question: what will our orgs look like when we wipe? Will they carry over the members and the permissions?
I think that's another question that we can discuss. I think that's one of the toggles that they're going to have to decide on. That we can have input on.
It's something that was discussed in kind of our organization meeting earlier today, and it's something that I think we definitely need to go to NQ about is what is going to happen to all the organizations? Is that going to be wiped? Is that going to retain its structure?
Hey, Drax,
it's something that has never been even mentioned as part of these discussions from NQ's side of things, and it's something we definitely need to know.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of work to get
on the blueprints, you made the comment if it's of a data type and in your nanopack, why would they not be able to do that with schematics as well?
I said if it's a data item and it is of type blueprint, very
Okay.
specific.
No, I was just asking.
Not data
I mean,
types altogether.
Okay.
And we don't want schematics transferring over
Right.
because they directly represent incredible amounts of quanta. And
Exactly.
That's very unwipe.
Exactly.
If they wipe, they should just wipe everything and you start day one, no blueprints, no
I know you're salty
schematics,
smalls,
nothing.
so am I, but this might be better for the future of the game.
The other thing we need to know is what they're replacing schematics with.
Well, we brought up some ideas for that. One of which was mine, and another which was I think it was who else brought up an idea for a research?
I brought up the research project and everything, but if the fact is that they're unwilling to code large segments of new content into the game before this wipe thing happens, we're left with two options, and that's to pay for schematics or have no schematics.
And that will cripple the economy.
And I hate to say this, but we don't know. They might already have a system in play that they're working on.
I mean, could they not just put it? It'd be nice to know, but could they not?
I think
easy
they
enough
do,
to stick
actually.
behind the skill tree. Make you have to spend your talent points, or if you want to be an indie guy, you have to spec into indie to do it. It's exactly how it works in Eve. You can't go out on day one and build a Titan in Eve. You've got to work your way up to it. And I think
the difference in Eve is that
you've got in
the difference. Sorry, it's just very quickly. The difference in EVE is that you've got access to every single level of industry immediately. You don't have a talent gate in the same way that DU does.
That is correct.
I'm gonna
And
put my
that's-
pen
and that's
down
something
here for a
another-
second.
but
I
it-
really think that they do actually have a replacement for schematics in mind, because they specifically said that one of the pros of wipes, like one of the things they mentioned multiple times about why they want to do a wipe, is to make it easier to remove things like schematics. And to be blunt, removing schematics is as simple as deleting the schematics. So if they need to wipe to do it, it must be, in my opinion, because they have something else in mind already that they're planning on replacing it with.
Fingers
That-
crossed
that
for
is a good point.
transparency. Can we please
Exactly.
just know these things as soon as possible?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
lovely.
if they've got an
Yeah,
idea in mind, or if they plan to go back to pre-schematic idea, because
Yes.
the whole problem with the way that industry was pre-schematics is what created the need for schematics in the first place. So if we're going back to before that, what is their resolution to the problems that no schematic industry caused in the first place?
No
Well, I
schematics
think
at all.
they could do a skill tree. They could do a skill tree and just train it like that. Like
But
any other game.
we need to
you
know.
to-
We need to know that this idea is in place, it's in play, rather than just the duality that we have now of schematics or no schematics.
It's not going to be so much of an alt-win thing doing it as a skill tree, because if you cannot build a uncommon space engine until you've trained level 4 in basic space engines, and it basically works out now, okay, alts can maybe diversify in different directions, but they're still going to have to put in a lot of skill points to get there.
But that's
So
a
you're
whole
not-
different,
you're not
it's a
having
whole
a-
different set of coding that's got to be done.
Okay,
guys, I hate to do this, but we are hitting that point. It is time for us to start stopping for the night. We have been going for 3 hours, which is an hour more than I normally like to go for a DUT. However, we have hit a lot of interesting topics. We have definitely hit a fire on this one, and if you guys are interested, we will do this again midweek on Wednesday night.
Next week on Wednesday night?
Yeah, this coming Wednesday.
Excellent.
Okay, so let's plan for that
we
again.
all need to dress up and go to in the camera.
And so everybody get your notepads out and write down your points, and we'll just bring it all to the table next Wednesday.
Yep. Let's do this Wednesday again. We'll be here for 8 p.m. Central Time. I'll start an hour early for DUT streams. Now, we need to call it a night so we don't keep rattling on, and so the devs actually have time to watch this. If we go 4 hours, they definitely ain't going to watch it.
But I
Thank-
like to rattle.
Thank you, Serapis, for hosting, and thank you all for coming. And
Guys, let's hit that raid. We're going to hit Angry Dad. We'll see you all Wednesday night. I'll be back tomorrow night for DU on my normal stream. Make sure you hit refresh when you get there, people. Otherwise, you don't get the count for the viewers.
Bring beer with that pizza.
Take care and good night.
I'll take them.
Everybody in chat, say good night.
Adios.
Night.
Bye.
Later.
Bye, Ovaltine.
For those of you who are still in the Discord and interested,